7 o'clock on September 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I'd like to open the meeting of the Boxborough Planning Board. When the members hear their names called who are present, please acknowledge your presence. Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz here.
Rebecca Werner.
Werner present.
Mark White.
White present.
And Janet Connolly. Janet, can you hear me? Well, Janet Connolly is...
I'm here.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, different microphone. Janet Connolly, present. Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see, the amended agenda. At 7 p.m., we will take public comments for items that are not currently listed on the agenda. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. And if you don't know how to use the raise hand function, please make yourself visible on the screen. And if not, please try and unmute yourself and call out. And if we don't see any of the above, we assume that you're going to reserve your comments for the for any of the items on the agenda that you might want to opine on. So I see nothing. It's 7:02. I don't think we have enough time to run through any of our ministerial duties. Let me take a look.
Do we have any meeting minutes? Wasn't in the packet from August 29th.
I don't see any on the agenda.
It's listed on the agenda, but I don't think it was included in the packet.
We didn't get any minutes. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's an error.
Okay.
So we don't have any minutes right now to go over. Is that right, Tracy?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, we're 2 minutes away. And I don't see anything that we can get through quickly.
Town Center Enclave, maybe an update from...
That's a great plan. Sue, let's put you on the spot. What have you got?
Actually, this week I met them on site and we talked about the remediation on the ponds. They're going to be scheduling the excavating and replacement of the stone on the bottom of the ponds. The one down by the water treatment center by the construction entrance, they wanted to wait, and I'm like, don't even go there. So they will be doing it this fall. We talked about upping the number of silt fences around especially that one down by the construction road, because it is still getting sediment down that way. We also talked about replacement of plants, Rebecca. I went through that, and they said they wanted to talk about bond reduction. I said, well, you're going to have to tell me exactly what you have got planted for bond reduction, because I'm not just going to say that, you know, you're 75% done and we release the money. You're going to have to give me a head count on plants and trees and stuff. So they will be working on that. They also will be going through and critically deciding what plant materials need to be replaced. So they're getting back on board. And I said, it sounds like the weather pattern is changing. Now's the time to get going on it. So I'm pushing.
It's definitely dig season right now for everyone.
Definitely. So we're pushing, and you know, we talked about the fact that now that we're no longer going weeks between rainstorms, that they may have to pump the ponds in order to be able to remediate them. And we talked about inspections that will be required and exactly the process of what they need to do and how they need to notify me for inspections. So I think we're all on board for that, and we're just waiting for them to get things scheduled.
So can I just put a reminder about the riprap wall behind the fence there on the Byron's, abutting the Byron's property, and that.
What about it?
Just that the ivy needs to be planted in there, or it's not visible, at least, maybe there are
Okay.
some.
It
Okay.
was planted in there because I saw it right after it had been planted, but that will be part of the walkthrough. We'll be going through the whole list and seeing that everything is in good shape. I'm guessing that ivy may be struggling because of the drought this summer, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before we go to our regularly scheduled hearing, Kathleen, I see that you're here now. Can you hear us? Oh, we can't hear you because you're muted, but feel free to unmute. So Kathy Vorse has joined us. And before we go into the regular scheduled hearing, I didn't know, maybe we should take a town planner update right now. I know that she has some news that maybe a lot of people don't know about. So sorry to put you on the spot, Tracy, but if
No, that's okay. No, I wanted to let everybody know that I have tendered my resignation. It was not an easy decision, but it was a necessary one for my own circumstance. The town of Boxborough welcomed me with open arms, and I really appreciate it. And I do regret that I can't work towards some of the goals that you all have. So I'll be here for the foreseeable future. I'd probably be here until the beginning of November. I don't think that'll change at least, but I want to hopefully be part of the new process of interviewing somebody, or I have had some experienced planners reach out. So I'm hoping somebody experienced will come in. So thank you.
Well, speaking personally, I'm really sad to see you go. And I think that, you would have been a great asset to the town of Boxborough. So we'll miss you, and thank you for sticking it out a little longer while we try and figure out how we're going to get by. So thanks.
Thank you.
And with that, I think it's time to open the continuation of the public hearing for 244 Adams Place, the application for site plan approval and special permit submitted by Foxborough Adams Realty Trust to construct a 140,000 square foot office and research development light manufacturing facility. I saw a couple of members of the Gutierrez team on the call, and I think probably we'll let Israel lead it off. Israel Lopez is here with us. Israel, you're ready to take the reins here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Paul Alphin. I'm going to get things started, and if it's okay.
Sure.
It's a pleasure to be here virtually with you all. My name is Paul Alphin. I represent the applicant Boxborough Adams Realty Trust, as you stated. Israel Lopez is here, as well as Carlton Quinn from Allen and Major. We last met on July 18, and at the July 18 meeting, the board members and your consultant raised a series of questions regarding the proposal. There was also the Places Associates letter dated June 30 that had a bunch of questions therein. So since that time, we have been working to address those concerns. Particularly, we submitted a letter on my letterhead dated September 14, 2022, in which we incorporated some waiver requests, some of them to address some of the concerns raised by the Places Associates letter. We also included comments in response to issues raised in the peer review letter and responses in response to concerns that were raised by various planning board members during the hearing, including a comprehensive response to the question regarding infectious invalidity. Now, I don't imagine that you've had time to digest all this since we submitted it only recently, but it's there, and at some point, when you've had a chance to digest it, we look forward to engaging in conversation with you about that. We also submitted a letter from Allen and Major Associates and some plan revisions where we addressed some of the concerns you had, most particularly the location of the improvements in relation to the Aquifer Protection District. And we've redesigned the project somewhat to address some of those concerns. And I think the first thing we'd like to do is to have Mr. Quinn go over the plan that was submitted and get some feedback on that. This is not a complete plan. This is sort of an interim plan to address the concerns you have so that we can measure whether we're headed in the right direction in response to the board's concerns and to get your feedback. And if we're headed in the same direction, in the right direction, we can take the plans and flesh them out and have them meet all the various requirements of the planning board regulations. So we acknowledge that it does not have everything that's required by your regs at this stage of the game, but we didn't want to put that effort in without first running it by the board and making sure that we're being responsive to your comments. So, Carlton, you want to see if you can share screens and put the revised plan up there and provide some comments?
Just for the record, so the plans, the last set of plans I have are dated, hold on a minute, September 13th. Is that, what's the title of the plan?
You should have a piece of correspondence dated September 14, 2022 from Allen and Major, and included in that correspondence on the last page is a revised plan.
I have a revised site plan memo, but I don't have the plan itself. Was there a plan? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I just also ask one other thing? It seems like I'm downloading some documents right now that we received today. I don't know what those plans are, or maybe there's correspondence in there as well. But
Rebecca, through the chair, if I may. The document that we got today was, I believe, the response to the infectious invalidity. That's what which is pretty intensive.
okay.
Well, there were two documents we received today, correct? One was the Allen and Major memo dated September 14th, and the other is the memo from Paul Alphen that addresses infectious invalidity and a few other items. It's about 18 pages. And is that correct, Tracy? Those are the only two.
You're correct. You're correct.
Thank you.
So, speaking on behalf of the board, I want to first say thank you for the opinion, Paul, and also thank you for the revised documents. We have got on the last probably month and a half, the planning board has been struggling because basically our chief of staff, our town planner, has been out for personal reasons, and we have not been getting a lot of documents in a timely manner. Nobody's fault. It's just, unfortunately, when the planner is out, sometimes these documents just sit. And one of them was Paul Alphen's letter, which I don't believe we got until this very day. So I'm not trying to make excuses to the Gutierrez team, but we are going to need we're going to need you guys to really kind of, be explicit and tell us what these documents mean in your eyes before we can go forward. So if we've got a site plan with modifications, as I recall, a lot of the complaints were we had a very steep riprap wall that with no vegetative screening between the structure and the hotel. We had a hotel that was close to 100 feet above the asphalt paving of the hotel parking lot. It seemed like quite an expansive structure for a relatively small lot that is in the Aquifer Protection District. I think we probably, after we get done with the site plan proposal, which I'm glad we're doing, we're going to give Attorney Alphen a little bit of time to speak about infectious invalidity, but I also hope he will speak on just a simple basic zoning merger concept that may have occurred with those two parcels, as well as 30% lot coverage and potential appurtenant structures and that might be allowed to mitigate some of that, and how Gutierrez's team is going to mention how they're going to account for that. Also, Section 9200 special permit requirements. Attorney Alphen had some comments on in his letter about why he thinks some of those may not be applicable, and I will have a series of questions for him in that regard. So, Carlton, can you share screen and show us what you guys have come up with? And thank you for the effort.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Carlton Quinn with Allen & Major Associates, representing the Gutierrez Company. We did the site survey in civil here, and I was going to request to share a screen, but Mark asked me to, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. If I could just get a thumbs up that people can see that.
We see it.
Awesome. Okay, so Mark, you kind of noted some of the items that were what we were trying to strategically solve for with the site plan. One of them was screening. The other one was pedestrian access that was also requested. Also the steep slopes and the aquifer protection district were kind of the four key items that we were looking to kind of address in this revised schematic. And up front, we have not gone through all the technical items in the Places Inc. memo. We thought at first to try to solve some of the big ticket items from the board's last meeting. So I'm just going to come and give you a little update on what we did. So the revised site plan, I have a couple other revisions, but I'll just show it on the aerial for now. This driveway coming around here, coming up here, we're showing a sidewalk, max 4.5% coming up here, up this driveway, 4.5%, and we kind of switch back here, coming around to the front of the site. So we were able to solve for the pedestrian access, meeting ADA requirements, and the grades required for that. So this driveway was also less steep now, down to 4.5%. I think it was about 5 in the previous one. And we also reduced the slope of this one, which was 8% previously. It's down to 6.75% to kind of address some of the other items. Obviously bringing the building down. We only had to bring the building down 1 foot from the previous finished floor elevation, trying not to create too much cut in the situation. One other item we were able to do is we were able to pull this driveway here 35 to 50 feet away from this property line. I'm sorry, away from its previous position where it was before. So we were able to pull it away, and we've now run a retaining wall down here instead of that big riprap slope that came down almost to the property line. So we're now staying, we got about an 80-foot buffer of existing vegetation we're trying to keep in this area. And over the last iteration, it's over an acre of wooded area that we believe we'll be able to save as a buffer here between the property line and this driveway, with 1, pulling the driveway away, 2, building a retaining wall instead of a riprap slope. So we'll be able to keep a lot of screening trees all the way down here, kind of where the hotel would be looking up at there. So this is all kept here in this area here. We've also lined the pedestrian access and all the driveways with shade trees, another item that we had spoke about before. So now we have pulled the driveway itself, is about 80 feet away from this aquifer protection line here, whereas before, I think we're about 20 feet away from it previously at the tightest position. So we pulled the whole development back from the aquifer protection district and obviously kept those vegetated trees. We spoke about the 5-foot sidewalk we're providing. We did also in this to provide better screening for the loading dock. The loading dock used to be right up on this edge because this is kind of the high barrier. We were able to pull it back about 30 feet into the site, so there'd be less of a direct sight line to the loading dock from its previous position. This area has also provided a better turning area. It's lengthened the access from the driveway to the loading dock to provide a better turning access for the trucks. You can also see we've added numerous landscape islands within the parking lot and shade trees kind of surrounding the entire driveway. And then another item that might be hard to see is here. The thought process here is we're going to provide a tiered wall, kind of a decorative wall, maybe some signage for the site with vegetation on each level to try to soften that arrival. It's much better than we had a 3-to-1 slope coming down here previously, or 2-to-1 slope. We think, viney plants and plantings around the tiers will help soften that arrival here to more of a sleek looking entrance than we had previously had before. I'm going to go through the previous grading plan and the new current grading plan just to try to get a sense of what changed. Here you see that's the riprap slope coming around here. That's the aquifer protection line you can see going right through the riprap slope. And this front area was all graded down to a 3-to-1 slope. So we're able to tighten this all up using a retaining wall. And this is the current design here. You can see that aquifer protection line here while it's loading. You can see there's no riprap anywhere near it over here. There's that retaining wall there. We've gotten rid of that steep slope down here. We'll have some trees up in here to buffer that, and this will all be vegetated in this tier. And at a certain point, that tier will just turn into a single kind of block wall coming around, more utilitarian after the arrival, but it'll be a much shorter wall than maybe a giant wall up the front would have been. So you can see most of the area here, and then here is just much sleeker looking than the previous version, which was kind of long slopes. I have a plan here overlaid. It's a bit of a spaghetti. I apologize, but it was just try to give you a sense of them overlaid with some dimensions on it. The existing plan is going to be in red. The proposed plan is in black. It'll just take a second to load here. This green area I have here is kind of the area that we had previously disturbed that we're hoping to remain vegetated with the new design. You can see those red contours running down there. There's that gray line's our new retaining wall. And we were able to keep some more trees in here also to help buffer that sight line from the hotel. Here's the black one's our current driveway. You can see right there, that double red line, that was the edge of the previous driveway that kind of came up here around that retaining wall back in there. We did shrink the width of the building by about 10 feet to help, again, pull that back and try to save more of this vegetation. You can see we kind of held this line over here. Some of the parking got moved into the center here. We kind of have a more efficient parking bay in here. And so that riprap wall. So there's a line of parking that was here that's now currently in here. So we did remove the parking over here. But other than that, this edge has fairly stayed basically what it was before. So that's kind of a walkthrough of what we did. And again, we do need to go through the technical items in Sue's letter, but we thought it was good to try to get a site plan that addressed the board's comments from the previous hearing. So I will hand it back to Paul or the chairman, however you want to move forward.
Well, I do want to say before you hand it off that, as I see this is definitely an improvement over what was given before. There are still some issues with the drawing. The landscape plan, I know this is all conceptual, obviously not holding you to it, but when I look at the trees relative to the parking space, the handicap spaces that were shown, that shows those drawings of the trees to be probably 45 feet in diameter, which would mean, you're showing these trees many decades after them being installed because they're, the diameter of them are pretty big. So that, and I just have a question before you go to Paul, which is how many parking spaces per 1,000 square feet are you proposing at this point?
I would have to, it didn't change. It's still, I believe, 298 or let me just pull up the previous plan. I apologize. I don't have that.
I'm not sure if I'm on mute or not, but I can answer that if.
Go ahead, Israel.
Please
Yeah,
identify yourself.
Yes, it's Israel Lopez. Good evening, everyone. Israel Lopez with the Gutierrez Company. And so the ratio is just over, I believe it's around 2.1 or so, somewhere between 2.1, 2.2 per thousand.
Okay, thanks, Israel. Cindy's hand's up. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I didn't hear what Carlton said relative to the building height. I think he mentioned something about it, but can you just let us know again what the building height is at under this configuration?
Sure. The building height didn't change. Israel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about 40 or 45 feet. The finished floor elevation of the building was lowered by 1 foot. So the overall height has been lowered by 1 foot than it was previously, but the building itself hasn't changed.
And if I may, Mr. Chair and members of the board, this was that, you know,
Is this Israel?
It is.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we identify ourselves because we have someone taking minutes who's not present at the meeting and she's going to need names for voices she doesn't recognize.
Sure, I apologize. I'll remember to introduce myself every time I speak.
Thank you.
There was a fair amount of analysis and thought that went into setting the finished floor elevation for the building. We did look at a revision to the site plan that lowered, in fact, where we began this process in terms of revising the site plan was with a lower finished floor elevation. But that resulted in significantly more impact to the site, more, you know, as you can imagine, the site slopes from, you know, say the entrance of the site where it meets the hotel property, up to the south, where it meets, you know, the abutting land on the Page South side of the plan. And so the more that you lower the building FFE, the finished floor elevation, the more that you cut into, you know, the site. And one of the things that we heard very loudly and clearly from the board was a concern around how much export and how much cut was going to be associated and required for the project. And so we sort of took that request and sort of prioritized that along with wanting to keep the building and the whole development pad site as far away from the aquifer as possible. And so in that sort of prioritization of balancing impacts to the site, we did lower the finished floor elevation a little bit, but wanted to not lower it so much so as to not create any additional impact. And we think with the additional landscaping that's being proposed, the additional buffering that we intend to maintain, that'll go, you know, sort of a long way towards minimizing, you know, the impact of the building from the hotel property. Not that we think it's going to be an unattractive building, and you know, we can sort of discuss whether you know, visually, you know, it's a benefit, you know, maybe from the hotel standpoint, and visitors to the hotel or not. But at any rate, the key is that, you know, it was a very conscientious analysis that we performed when looking at that element.
Thank you, Israel. One last time, what's your square footage to parking ratio per 1,000 square feet?
I'm just going to do the quick math here. It's 290 spaces on
Total 290
290 spaces.
over 140,000.
Correct. It's 2.07 parking spaces per 1,000, and we're, you know, that parking ratio is one that is market tested, if you will. We've looked at other similar facilities and surveyed what the typical parking is, and not just in terms of the hard requirement, but more importantly, utilization rates. And we feel that this amount of parking is adequate, for more than adequate actually, for this proposed facility.
Okay, thank you. I see our consultant's hand up. Sue, questions, comment?
Yeah, a couple of comments that I had was, I think it's important for the board to understand how high these retaining walls are. Stepped walls doesn't mean that they're 4-footers and stepped up like you'd see in a backyard. Many of these are 10 to 12 feet and then stepped. On the lower wall that is keeping it out of the aquifer district, at one point the wall I scaled was almost 20 feet in height. Similarly, there's a cut slope on the westerly edge into the hill, and you can see it with that dark line. There are places where that approaches 48 feet in height. So I think that's an important thing for the board to understand. The other secondary concern I have is that the plan looks great with all those trees, but if you remember before, we had drainage that was open to the surface. With this scheme, I'm guessing a lot of it's going to be subsurface. So a lot of those trees may or may not be viable. So, you know, I would take this concept plan with a grain of salt, because once we see the final plan, there may not be as many trees and as many opportunities for landscaping once drainage goes in. And then my final comment is construction sequencing is going to be very important on this for erosion control. I'm really concerned how they're going to control water coming off this site, regardless if it's this scheme or the previous scheme. So those are issues that I'm really going to be looking hard at when it comes in.
Your cat is a ham.
I
Keeps
have,
trying to get in there. It's awesome.
well, I have 3 kittens that are 5 months old, so this is only their second meeting, so they're not used to this yet.
So having our engineer reading the grade lines and the retaining walls and the building elevation and the top of finished floor, it basically, when you're talking about 12-foot retaining walls next to a 40-foot tall building that is roof line is over 100 feet above the parking lot below, there isn't going to be any tree cover around it. There's going to be tree cover on steps that get up to the location of the building. So it's important to recognize that how, you know, the visibility of this building, it's not going to be concealed by the landscaping around it. If that landscaping is, you know, on a step 12 feet below the floor elevation of a 40-foot building. So Rebecca's hand is up.
So again, I don't believe these drawings were in the packet that we got today. I mean, for today. So I haven't had a chance to review these documents. But I did want to ask what those elevations were on those walls as well. So thank you for doing that, Sue. You know, I think, again, we still have the same problem. Yes, we may be able to salvage a few trees down there on the lower level, but you still have the same, I believe, the same grade changes from that area. And I'm also looking at to the north wall where that drop is and in the back. And as far as construction goes of such significant walls, you know, we have to be clear that there will be overdig that has to take place in order to construct such significant walls and all that grading. So, you know, you may look at the extent of the walls here and the grading, but, you know, it's going the construction access needs to take place likely from below the retaining walls, I would assume. It wouldn't be constructed from above. So, and they'd want those in place before, you know, we start building the building and such, so you can flatten the site out. So I don't know that we're protecting as many of the trees that were reflected in that green concept bubble as we, you know, it might look. Anyways, I'm just a little concerned with that because I'm not sure you can do that and construct such a significant grading feat out here. So that's all I wanted to make mention of.
But we do appreciate that you're making efforts to respond to the concerns that the board has made. So,
And
you know, thanks that, you know, this might be the first step towards a more palatable plan.
And Mr. Chair, again, just Israel Lopez. I appreciate both Sue Carter's comments and the board members' comments because they highlight exactly. I think they're great comments with respect to the retaining walls, and that is precisely one of the reasons why we maintained the finished floor elevation close to where we had proposed it, because precisely to minimize as much as possible the height of those retaining walls, and therefore be able to maintain as much of the vegetation that's there as possible, so that you're not building these really, tall walls. So it's really a balancing act, and I think the comments of the board reflect precisely, I think, what we're trying to accomplish, which is to minimize the retaining, the height of the retaining wall. So well, I think we're thinking along the same lines.
Thanks, Israel. So Attorney Alphen, I know you put together, a substantial response. And so would you like to share your kind of go over your letter with us and
I appreciate that you haven't had a chance to review it, and I don't expect the board to be able to respond to it in a comprehensive fashion. I want the board to be able to digest it. Perhaps you'll run it by council. But if you'd like me to paraphrase some of it just to whet your appetite, I'd be happy to.
Please do.
So in addition to the waiver requests, and one of the waiver requests, by the way, has to do with the number of parking spaces as a provision in the bylaw that allows the board to waive the number of parking spaces, as you know, so long as it's sufficient land area to construct them if necessary. And certainly with this land area, there is sufficient area. In addition to the waiver requests, we focused on some of the other concerns, and I think a principal concern had to do with the merger or infectious invalidity issue that was raised, because the hotel lot C on the subdivision plan may not comply with the requirements regarding is it impervious
lot coverage, maybe?
Lot coverage. There was no lot coverage requirement when the hotel was constructed in 1974. And the lot coverage requirement was established in 1983 after the hotel had been open for some period of time. And in 1983 and today, the zoning bylaw carves out an exception. The bylaw says that the changes of the bylaw shall not apply to structures or uses in existence or lawfully begun, or to a building or special permit issued before the first publication of notice of the public hearing. So we interpret that to mean that the hotel was pre-existing non-conforming and not an illegal or unlawful use of Lot C, because it did not meet the lot coverage requirement after the bylaw was changed in 1983, because it was constructed in compliance with the bylaw in 1974. And even above and beyond how you interpret the local bylaw, the state statute changed relatively recently. The state statute rendered any building that's in existence for at least 10 years to be pre-existing non-conforming. That was an amendment in 2016 to Chapter 48, Section 7, which protects structures that are in existence for 10 years and treats them as legally non-conforming. So in that regard, the hotel is not an illegal use of the property. It's protected as a non-conforming structure, and therefore does not render adjacent properties non-conforming. And the third reason we believe we're good is that if all of those things that I have said are not true, and we have to look at the entirety of the property that was shown on the 1974 subdivision plan, There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots on the subdivision plan. Only one of them has been developed. That's Lot C, the hotel lot, and only one lot is proposed to be developed, and that's Lot D. And based upon the entirety of all of that area, the percentage of developed area would be 21.4% combined development area, well below the 30% maximum in the bylaw today. Am I properly stating that? It is, yes, 30%. So if necessary, we could impose a restriction on some of those lots that we control to make sure that they're not overdeveloped in the future. But at present, they're not, they don't exceed the development limitations. Regarding the special permit criteria, we did two things. One is we pointed out that we're applying for one special permit. That one special permit is for a private common driveway. That's the driveway that goes over the easement area that crosses the piece of property that's owned by the hotel people. And that's the only special permit. And section 6105 specifically states that the board, I just want to get the correct language in here. The states the board may issue a private common driveway special permit after making findings 1 through 7, and it enumerates what the findings 1 through 7 are. And we've responded to those in the original application of what how those criteria are met. The board members indicated that we should also add to that language the criteria that's in section 9204, which is something we don't necessarily agree with, because in different special permit criteria in the bylaw and various sections that we have listed, it is specifically said that in addition to the requirements for those particular special permits, we're all supposed to go back and review the requirements of section 9204. But there are other special permit provisions that don't do that. And if you read the zoning bylaw in its totality, I think you have to acknowledge that the requirements under 9204 don't apply because of the language in the bylaw that says that a special permit may be issued upon a finding of items 1 through 7, and it does not refer to section 9204. Having said that, because sometimes it's you can't fight City Hall, we enumerated the requirements of the 9204 and reserving all rights that in the future we can assert that those criteria don't apply. We enumerated how we meet those various requirements. And the other thing that we did is we talked about the need for an earth removal permit at the end of the letter, and we outlined the provisions in the earth removal bylaw, and we acknowledge that a permit will be required. There are specific exceptions and standards that apply to earth removal that's associated with the construction of a building or a road, and the board may issue a earth removal permit without a public hearing for more than 200 cubic yards of earth for purposes including when necessary in connection with activities exempted in section 3 of the earth removal section of the bylaw. And those exemptions apply. But yes, we will have to obtain an earth removal permit. We don't know today how much earth removal will be involved, so it's impossible to apply for it today, but we acknowledge that that will be necessary. So that's it in a nutshell, a remarkably small nutshell considering who's speaking at this moment. But I'm sure you'll want to read it and digest it and get back to us on any further questions you may have.
Well, thanks, Paul, for doing that. And as you know, you can imagine, we're just planning board members, so we are going to need to get an expert to even fully digest what you've said and kind of dumb it down for us. So one of the things I think the 53G law may not include is legal counsel in terms of consultants. So when we want to have our applicant pay for that consultant, we usually have to ask their special permission to allow us to use their budget to pay for our attorney's cost. And I didn't know if that would be something that Gutierrez would be willing to do, to let Adam Costa review your finding and then get back to us with what he thinks. Is that something that Gutierrez would do? Israel, is that something that you'd be willing to entertain?
Yes, yes, certainly.
Okay, so we're going to let our planner flesh that out with you outside of the meeting. But that's what we intend to do, is have Adam Costa review Attorney Alphin's letter and kind of explain to us where he believes that the town stands with respect to most of the comments. But I want to thank you for bringing this to us the way you did. You came back. You're trying to listen to us with what the principal complaints are and work with the lot, which we all acknowledge is not ideal, landscape to be building on. But we also acknowledge that all of the good ones are already taken, so we're working with what we've got. I'm not sure where the board wants to take this from here. Is there any thoughts that what our next step should be? Board, we definitely need time to digest literally all of the things that you've gotten, because we have been in a pretty, we've been in an uncertain state over the last month and a half. While you've been working to get us information, we've been struggling to keep our planning board up and running. So, board, do you have any ideas what you want to do? Anybody have any thoughts about what they would like to do? I personally would like to continue this to next month and actually look at the documents that we've already received, and also get an opinion from our legal counsel and go forward from there. Also, I think that Gutierrez hasn't completely answered the comments that were given last time from our consulting engineer, understandably so, because you guys are sort of retooling your plan. So that's my thoughts, but I also see two board members with their hands up. Mark White is first. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks. I agree. I think we've got to first process this. The applicant needs to understand that even in the best of days, for us to get stuff on a Thursday prior to a meeting leaves us very little time to process, particularly when their attorney's making legal arguments that we have to then kind of flesh out and figure out what's really being proposed. So certainly I would be in favor of continuing this to a later date. And I do have one funny question about that, Paul, your argument, which is if a lot is owned in its entirety prior to the zoning change, and then after the zoning change occurs, a part of that lot is sold off, wouldn't it stand to reason that any subsequent development on that broken off lot, it isn't afforded the same protections that the grandfathered lot in its entirety would have? So I'm just kind of curious what your opinion is on that before we kind of move along, because I want to know where you're at.
Paul, do you want to respond?
Yeah, Paul Alphin speaking. I wrote some prose in the letter about how if the infection no longer exists, that the adjacent lot, and it's therefore no longer contagious, the adjacent lot would not get the disease. But what I meant by that is that because the zoning bylaw states that buildings that were constructed in advance of the amendment of the zoning bylaw are protected and they're not considered to be illegal. And because the statute now says the same thing, so even if the zoning bylaw was somehow interpreted to mean that merger has occurred, notwithstanding the language in the bylaw, that now that we have the protection in the statute, I just don't see how the hotel lot could be lawful and an innocent bystander with no notice would end up with an unlawful lot.
So I actually don't want to get into a tit for tat with a guy who's a lot smarter than I am. So, what I'm going to do is wait for Adam Costa's response.
And by the more smarter person, you met Mark, correct?
Yes, Mark White.
Right.
So anyways, thanks a lot, Paul. I see Cindy's hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I guess just generally speaking, I'm a little bit disappointed that although the applicant has tried to mitigate some of the board's concerns, that the general concern of the board about the magnitude, the scale, the size of this building, the height of this building hasn't really been addressed. Just some of the sloping, tiered retaining walls to try and mitigate the overall magnitude of the building doesn't seem to address the board's concern. Again, I did go out and actually see the similar building being constructed in Marlborough, so I do have a good feel for the scale of that. So I do have significant concerns about that, and I just want to make that known to the group. I know that Tracy routed the application materials to many boards in town. I think we only heard from a couple of boards, and we think we're still waiting to hear from the Board of Health. And also, although police weighed in, we did not hear from the fire department formally. I know in the pre-development discussions, the fire department was very concerned about the access road and the helicopter landing area and emergency egress. And I believe some of that was addressed in the letter that came in today. But again, I haven't poured over it in detail, but I would like to certainly hear from our emergency personnel regarding all of that access and the roadways, the new proposed roadways and such. It still sounds like there's only one egress for folks in the building, and if that egress is blocked by emergency personnel, that would be a problem. Relative to the mass and scale issue, I think I had suggested or requested that potentially there could be some sort of visual rendering from various locations to give the board a sense of scale. So whether that is something that the applicant is willing to do sooner or prefer to wait, I think it would help inform the board significantly, and that should include, known landmarks such as the hotel building and other landmarks in the view shed to help us understand, again, magnitude of the project. I did also note in the comments that were received from the circulation internally that while the design review board is not officially it appears that our bylaw doesn't allow necessarily for the design review board to weigh in. There was an offer to provide advisory opinion, and I would request that the board formally request an advisory opinion from the design review board when and if the time is appropriate for that, because again, there's scale and massing here that I feel we should be informed by folks that have a better context for that. So those are my general comments at this point. I certainly agree with Mark Barbado's approach to continue so we can get additional input from legal counsel on many of these matters, and appreciate that we can take a little more time to digest all of this. Thanks.
Before we go to Attorney Alphen, I just want to ask our consulting engineer a quick question. Sue, is part of this project, be it wastewater disposal or otherwise, in the Aquifer Protection District itself, or is it all of it completely outside of it?
So way it was initially designed, and Carlton could address whether or not it changed, the final location of the discharge from the stormwater was in the aquifer, but the well and the septic system were not in the aquifer district.
Okay, but structures are, by our definition of the bylaw, structures can include things below ground. And if there's, if there's chambers that are underground that are in the aquifer protection district, then I think it's reasonable to conclude that the project is in the aquifer protection district, at least
Well,
partially.
Drainage, yes, but that was the only part. And I think concern in terms of the aquifer still comes down to erosion control during construction, because everything flows downhill, and at the bottom of the hill is the aquifer.
I was actually thinking of a different, that's really important, but I was thinking of a different portion of the bylaw that when you're talking about special permits, it talks about getting all of your other comments and permits in place prior to the final determination whether or not a special permit could be approved. That's I believe it's in section 9200, which admittedly Attorney Alphen is not quite there with the idea that they are actually a requirement, but we'll have Adam figure that out. But in general, I think it's a good idea to get as much comment from the other boards and or the other permits that are associated complete before we make our finding. But I see, and I'm going to just hold Paul for another moment because I see Carlton's hand up, and I think he may have wanted to talk about what structures are in the aquifer. Carlton, you want to comment?
Yeah, just quickly, none of the septic system is within the Aquifer Protection District. There are infiltration systems for stormwater within the Aquifer Protection District. And we've been working closely with the Board of Health agent, I believe it's Neshoba Valley, is it Jeff or Joe? And we actually have a submittal, a design sitting in our outbox, kind of ready to send once we get kind of a more comfortable position on the site plan. So we do understand it needs to be approved before we get any approval here. We were just trying to do it as efficiently as possible and waiting for the right moment to submit that. But we do have all our test bits done and our design is finished, ready to be submitted.
Excellent. Understood, Carl. Thank you. Attorney Alphen.
Thank you. Two things. One, I heard the comment regarding the applicability of the design review board. And one of the items that I addressed in my memo was the inapplicability of the design review board. So we need to get some consensus on that. And also, I think that the provision in the special permit criteria that you refer to that requires that all permits be obtained in advance, I think the language says you need to enumerate what the various permits are. We have been unable to find a specific requirement that says we have to obtain them all in advance. So if you can point us in that direction, that would be very helpful.
Okay, we will do it. If we can't, we'll say so.
All right. Thank you.
I'd like to take some comments from the, Cindy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a couple follow-up. So my request about design review board advisory opinion was a request that they provide an opinion to the board. I don't know whether or not, even if the bylaw doesn't require it, that, it's my assumption that we can ask for an opinion similar to as we would for external consultants. But, again, it would only be advisory. So that was my reason for asking about that. And then secondly, if Tracy might want to speak to this, it sounds like Tracy's been reaching out to some hydrogeologic firms. So maybe she can explain a little bit more about what she has requested and what we expect to get from in the way of some hydrogeology outside expertise. Thanks.
Tracy, did you want to make some comments?
Yeah, I just want to open up my email so I can state what I asked for appropriately here. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, so what I did was I I reached out to 3 different firms, and what I asked them to do was to assist the planning board with review of geological and hydrogeological impacts of the proposed project at 244 Adams Place. I asked them to, for a proposal to review the applicant's hydrogeologic characterization of the site and review complete application package to DEP and the borings to characterize geology. And then lastly, I asked them to determine the aquifer protection district boundary at the location identified in the plans. And that was, I think that was, assess impacts to aquifer associated with blasting of ledge and other project construction in the defined area. I haven't got a response back from any of the firms yet, but I will keep Israel in the loop as well as the board.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I'd like to get any comments from anyone in the audience who would like to make comments or concerns. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment on the project? Feel free, raise your hand. And I see none at this time. So, oh, go ahead, Israel.
Thank you. Israel Lopez with the Gutierrez Company. I was wondering if we could receive a copy of the scope that was, I tried jotting down what the scope was that was being requested, but I was wondering if we could receive a copy of the scope so we can understand it.
Sure, I can forward that to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, I really do appreciate Gutierrez's patience with us while we get ourselves up to speed. I think we should continue this. Does anybody have a time and a date recommendation?
Well, how long will it take for us to run this by legal, I guess is the question. Tracy, what do we got in, let's see, we're middle of September. What do we got?
For October 3rd, you already have 3 hearings scheduled.
And so after that is what?
It will be October 17th.
I think that's the better date. I'd like to give Adam almost 30 days to look at it because I know how he is. He spins a lot of plates, so.
And will the applicant have the right amount of time in that month to like get us a comprehensive submittal, I guess? That would be another question.
Well, this is Paul Alphen speaking. I don't think we want to do that. I think that if what we've done is wrong, we don't want to put the effort into putting together a comprehensive submittal. I think we have to have some consensus among us all that we're headed in the right direction before we put that effort in.
I would agree with that. I think that it's better to, we can always get the comprehensive submittal when we're, all on board with what we're seeing now. If there's some major changes that need to be made, then, that would be a lot of redoubling of effort on the part of Gutierrez's team. Israel Lopez, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to, I agree with that and would maybe suggest that we work with the consulting engineer and maybe advance, take some of the comments and feedback that we've gotten here tonight and try and advance the drawings a little bit more, not quite to the point of a full-blown set of plans, but at least continue to try and demonstrate and be responsive to some of the comments we've gotten.
Well, that sounds good. I appreciate
That's kind of what I was alluding to is that Sue her office had prepared a really extensive, thoughtful narrative there. So I just was hoping that more of that could be maybe wrapped in.
Awesome.
So, I guess you're looking for a motion to continue the hearing until the 17th of October. And at a time, when we say 7:45?
You don't have anything on the agenda yet,
So
so.
we can say 7:05.
I'll second.
Yeah, we will have Campanelli special permit discussions on the 17th. I don't see it on our listing here, but
Yeah,
agree.
you haven't continued it to the 17th yet, so.
First to the gate.
First to the gate. Okay, 7:05. So we've got a motion for a time and date certain. And it's been seconded by Rebecca. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote. Rebecca Werner,
Werner, I.
Cindy Markowitz,
Mark, what's I?
Mark White,
Wait, aye.
Kathy Borse,
Boris, I.
and Janet Connolly, just to keep you awake. Tough being the
Connolly, I. I'm here with you, Mark.
I appreciate that, Janet. Thank you. Okay, and Mark Barbadoro, aye. So thank you, Gutierrez. We appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you.
All right, so
Do you need me for anything else?
let me just check the agenda real quick.
I'm getting a wicked thunderstorm right now, so if I lose power, it'll only be for a few minutes till the generator kicks in.
Okay, let's see here. Oh my God. Let me see. One moment.
Is Sue going to have any input into the public hearing on the bylaw amendments?
I haven't reviewed them.
Then I guess.
Say you've got your out then.
Good, yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sue, I think you're all set. I appreciate you coming out.
Actually, before you go, Sue, well, on that end, did you ever provide comments to Barrett Planning Group on the Boxborough zoning bylaw recodification?
Only real early when they asked if we knew some of the area, when they first started, not once they pulled it together. I wasn't asked to look at it, so I haven't.
Okay. We'll probably have another draft. I don't know whether that's something we want to request, but I'll leave that to Mark Barbadaro to determine.
Okay. Well, for now, I think Sue will get back to you later on.
Okay, that's fine.
And we'll let you go.
Okay,
Thanks for coming out.
okay, sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks. Sue.
Let's see here. The zoning bylaw amendments, public hearings. Do we have a legal notice to read? We probably should. Is that in the packet somewhere?
It is.
Let me see. Yep. Okay. Okay, the Boxborough Planning Board will conduct a public hearing pursuant to MGL Chapter 48, Section 5 on Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 7:05 p.m. to consider the following proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The city of the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw Articles 1 through 9 by adopting the recodification of the existing zoning bylaws shown in an 88-page document. That is the one we're not doing yet. Okay. Right. Let me go back. That must be. Yeah, this one would be the right one. Okay. And before I open it, just so everyone knows, we are doing, as I just read, the recodification at the next meeting. That will be the public hearing. If we have time tonight and we want to, we can certainly discuss it in meeting form, and we can take input from people. The Zoning Board of Appeals, in order to avoid a quorum, it would be great to get written comments when possible. But I think if we properly post a quorum, then we can, then they can participate. But in any event, the recodification will be at the next meeting. And if we, like I said, if we have time, we'll discuss it in meeting form tonight because it was on the meeting agenda.
Can I just ask one quick question, Mark? I believe you guys met with Barrett, and I thought that we were going to see another round of comment.
Yep.
Another red line. Is that still coming?
It is coming, and it will be in the meeting packet. We can show it on the screen tonight if we have time.
Awesome.
But it will be distributed to the board members after tonight.
We do not have a red line. Let me just correct you on that, Mark. What they did was we went through the index that I shared with you all about, things that were the same and things that had changed, and asked them for feedback. They responded by completing the index, telling us what they did, but we agreed that they would wait on getting us a revised draft red line until after we had input from the, let's see, how's the timing going to work on this? After we had input from the public, it was supposed to be from tonight's meeting, and then they would provide us a draft because we didn't want to have two drafts circulating, one pre-input and one post-input. So I will share the index with you, which is where they responded to what they've done, but they didn't produce a draft yet.
So the index says why they did what they did. So
I guess that's the one that I thought was coming. So
yeah,
right.
That is definitely coming. If we have time tonight, we'll look at it. If not, it'll be in your inbox tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
Okay, so back to the notice, the legal notice of public hearing, Town of Boxborough zoning bylaw amendments. The Boxborough Planning Board will conduct a public hearing pursuant to MGL Chapter 48, Section 5, on Monday, September 19th, 2022 at 7:45 p.m. to consider the following proposed zoning bylaw amendments: a recodification of the current zoning bylaw, a change to the definition of floor area ratio in Section 2136, a change to Section 5002 dimensional schedule, removal of footnote 1, a change of definition of lot coverage in Section 2158. The proposed zoning bylaw amendments are available for review on the planning board page of the town website, www.boxborough-ma.gov, and on file at the planning board, the planning department located at 29 Middle Road, Boxborough, Mass. 01719. Based on current COVID-19 circumstances, this public hearing will be conducted via Zoom, and details will be made available on the planning board agenda on the town website when posted a minimum of 48 hours prior to the meeting. Please contact Tracy Murphy, Town Planner, to request a link to the town meeting or to answer questions at tmurphy@boxborough-ma.gov. And the phone number for the planning department is 978-264-1723. Written comments may be sent by September 19th, 2022 to the planning board at 29 Middle Road, Boxborough, Mass. 01719. Okay. So the hearing is now open, and we should probably put some stuff up on the screen and have a quick overview of each item, what the purpose was behind it, and I'd begin a discussion.
Mark,
Yes,
point of order.
sure.
I have two legal notices of zoning bylaw hearings in my packet.
Yep.
The public, and I know the difference between the two, but the public may not. And one of them is basically dated for tonight's meeting. But then there's another one dated for an October 3rd meeting. And so they both speak to the same issue, and people should probably know that that's kind of where we're at here.
Yeah, I'll even explain why. So the reason there are two notices is because the second notice for next week's meeting was recommended by Barrett Planning Group for the zoning bylaw recodification. They were concerned that our initial posting may not have had all the language in it needed to satisfy the Attorney General's municipal division when they review our bylaw after town meeting for recodification. It's a little bit different than your regular zoning bylaw. They were concerned that some of the language may be too broad and needed to be more specific. And so they recommended language. We adopted it and used it in the posting. So the second public hearing notice is really for the zoning bylaw recodification. The other notices were proper. So we're doing the public hearing on the other ones. We're doing a public meeting on the zoning bylaw recodification. The only real difference is that we have to have the advertisement correct. And we didn't feel like we would have it on this meeting because you have to have them 14 days before the day before the meeting occurs. So by the time Barrett Planning gave it to us, there wasn't enough time to stick it all on this meeting. So that is the reason why there is two. But we're gonna, if we get time, we'll talk about the recodification. But if not, we'll talk about the minor changes, minor but significant changes. So with all that in mind, I don't have a great ability to get stuff up on the screen because I'm using my laptop and I don't have the documents available. So could someone put the zoning bylaw changes up on the screen?
You want the proposed recodification of the zoning bylaw or the notice, your letter?
Well, whatever has the language in it for the actual zoning bylaw.
Your letter does. I mean, that's the only document I've got that shows kind of.
Well, we can put that up. I think that's the language that we.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Got it?
Yep. Thanks, Mark. I just got to make it bigger. Let's see here. Awesome. Okay. So, there were a few different changes that are being proposed. The first one, let's see here, is 2136 floor area ratio. I proposed to the board that we add additional language to the total gross floor area definition. And what I was hoping to achieve is right now we have 1.7 million. In less than a year, the town of Boxborough has received applications for 1.7 million square feet of high cube flex space in the office park districts and in the industrial districts, and mostly in the office park districts. This type of building is a building that has a very high ceiling, over 20 feet in height. And they're all usually single-story facilities. The zoning by the master plan is calling for zoning that will encourage mixed-use development in these districts. And we have a definition in our zoning bylaw of what mixed-use development is. But when you take high cube flex space and you think about what uses are being proposed in them, they are generally light manufacturing, and warehousing, and research and development. And in the office park districts, you're not allowed to do warehousing and distribution. You are allowed to do, you're not allowed to do manufacturing. You're allowed to do light manufacturing, and you are allowed to do research and development under the right circumstances. The trouble with these buildings as it relates to the master plan is that they are single-use buildings in any district that they're put in. And then when you think about them in the office park districts, they are limited to two uses, light manufacturing and R&D. So you're not getting, they're called flex space, but they're single-use space, and they are not well suited for mixed use and development. And we are seeing them being proposed exclusively now for new development. In fact, We have applications before us that include raising office parks and converting them to high cube flex space, similar to what was done for Aranta Bio and Vibalogics. So this ordinance change will basically say that if we have a floor area ratio, and normally that floor area ratio is 0.1 for buildings that have normal ceiling heights for office park uses or retail or mercantile, housing, other things. But you're allowed 0.1 floor area ratio. So 10% of your lot coverage is allowed to be, your amount of floor area is limited to 10% of your total lot area. But if you want to do flex space, we're going to say it's going to be 5% of your floor area if you want to do exclusively high cube flex space. And the idea is that if you limit the amount of high cube flex space, but allow for a greater amount of floor area for other uses, then you are encouraging mixed use development in these districts. So that was the thought process behind that change. And I'm going to open it up to public comments to begin with. Is there anybody who's at this meeting that'd like to make a comment about this particular bylaw? Just raise your hand if there's someone out there. Also, we will be taking written comments as well. But Kristen, go ahead. Kristen Hilbert.
Hey, you guys. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm in my room and no one needs to see that. So I'm actually here with my economic development committee hat on, not my zoning board hat. And we just have some significant concerns that, as much as you can see this as an incentive to bring in the mixed use, and encourage landowners to head in that direction. It's really just another restriction. And we already have a reputation of being significantly more restrictive than any of our neighbors. Only Harvard rivals us with their floor area ratios. And we're just really concerned that this is just going to further put us behind, because as much as the master plan is calling for certain types of development, we're also hearing loud and clearly that that we need to manage the tax base, that we need these developments, and that perhaps this is just not the direction we should be going in at this time.
Okay.
So that is coming from the EDC.
No, that's great. Thank you. I'm just curious if they have any recommendations on how to perfect it.
I think our biggest
strike it.
No. I think our biggest concern is unintended consequences and the fact that this is moving so quickly. And we'd like to see us just take a step back and make sure that we've got the time to be thoughtful about this and that it doesn't wind up shooting ourselves in the foot in other ways.
Okay. I appreciate that. Is there any other comments?
Okay.
Anybody else in the audience have any comments? I'm not seeing any, so I would say to Kristen and to the EDC that any comments in writing would be helpful, because at some point we'll be issuing a report, and if you guys have ideas on how to perfect this bylaw, then they would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Yep. I'll bring that back to the board.
And make sure you do it quickly, because like you said, we're moving pretty fast, but
Yes. Yep.
but we're not the ones moving so fast. It's everybody who's building these buildings that are moving, very fast.
Mhm.
So we're struggling to keep up. Okay. Any board member comments on this proposal? I'm not seeing any. Okay, so I also see other members of the ZBA in the audience. And I'd like to reiterate, if you don't feel comfortable making comments right now, which is totally understandable, I'd love to get any comments in writing. particularly before town meeting. So, awesome. All right, I'm not hearing any comments on this one, so we're going to move on to the next one. And the next one is to strike footnote 1 on table 5002 on the dimensional schedule. And the thought process behind this one is that we've adopted stormwater rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations are generally more restrictive than this current bylaw is, because this current bylaw allows you to basically take raw land and create impervious surfaces that would generate runoff of 30% of the entire lot. So for argument's sake, you take the lot, you cover it with 100% impervious surfaces. Well, this bylaw says, well, you can do that as long as you impound and retain and recharge up to 70% of the runoff. But federal and state stormwater regulations make you account for 100% of your runoff when you are, following stormwater regulations. So from that perspective, it's not necessarily benefiting the town. It's basically already less restrictive. So that didn't make a lot of sense. And then the other thing that didn't make a lot of sense was the fact that the other commercial districts in town have a hard metric that you're not allowed to exceed. Some districts are 50%, some are 30%. But in any event, you're not allowed to exceed the impervious surfaces. And that tells me, since this particular bylaw was formed for basically the zones that are in the aquifer protection district, that if my rationale is, if this district is more sensitive than most and more in need of protection than most, then why would you allow a exception that could allow total lot coverage? So I bet the EDC has a comment on this, that Kristen's still on the board, and I'm guessing exactly what it is. I'm going to predict, I'm putting my thinking cap on, we're moving too fast. We've got, it will impact construction. We haven't really thought it through. But anyways, Kristen, do you have something for the comment on behalf of the EDC?
No, not at the moment.
Excellent. Then I take it all back.
I know what you're thinking.
Okay. But that's good to know. All right. Board members, do you have any concerns, thoughts about striking footnote 1 in its entirety? Cindy?
Yeah, just to say I'm in support of this change. Initially, my original thought was, well, if you can engineer the solution, then, that's why this was added. But, because these districts are essentially the aquifer district, to your point, Mark, these are the ones we do need to protect more fully. So the idea of lot coverage up to 100%, and then an engineered design to address that, in the most sensitive districts in town, really didn't make sense to me. So I do support this. I think it makes sense to remove that footnote, and I think it's a good idea. Thanks.
So the other consideration is that the Aquifer Protection District area is suffering from two things. One is the water's becoming very salinated, and the other is PFAS. And stormwater management does not help for either of those two things. So when the only thing that stops salt from getting into the aquifer is to not have as much impervious material on it. If you have a parking lot, the bigger the parking lot, the more salt will run into the aquifer. And in terms of PFAS, the more commercial activity you do in an area, the more you're going to put PFAS into the water supply, or the greater the potential risk of PFAS in that water supply. So that was all part of the of the thought process behind it. I did see Kristen's hand up though. Kristen, did you want to give some commentary?
Well, no, I was just kind of thinking, like, I don't disagree with you that we want mixed use development in town. I would be thrilled for mixed use development in town. So in conjunction with this, would the planning board ever consider changing the floor area ratio, making it more palatable, maybe 0.2 instead for a specific mixed use development? Is that even something that's allowed? You know, is that even something we can do? You guys are the experts, not me.
Well, I think anything is on the table moving forward. I think we have lots of time when we don't develop out into one specific thing. If we allow it to be developed out all as high cube flex space, I think it's going to be all the harder to try and put mixed use development on the lot at a later date. But it's a good point.
Well, no, and you know, I can't speak for the board right now because this is just kind of stuff running through my head, but it's like, okay, have you guys thought of the next step? If we can slow down do what we're doing right now, what's that next step to bring in the type of development that we actually do want?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think it deserves more scrutiny. So, Mark.
Kristen, I mean, you're speaking to the prior article, not the one that we were just talking about, which is the dimension.
I know I'm behind, but that's why I raised my hand, because I'm like, wait a minute, I've had time to catch up in my little mind.
Well,
You guys are going fast.
So what I'd say on this one is, I mean, to me, it seemed like a housekeeping mission, because if federal law doesn't allow you to give a pass like our bylaw currently anticipates, then it's just a house cleaning issue to take it out of there so nobody gets confused. If legally we could, through zoning, give a pass, then I would look at it differently, because you're taking away something that mitigated some pretty substantial, drainage regulations that the federal government's put in place that we really never had any say-so in, other than we had to agree with it. So I'd like to understand that more fully. Do the new federal regulations trump what was in the bylaw in the first place?
So yes, it does. It doesn't trump it, but yes, it is more restrictive.
It's more restrictive, but I mean, would an applicant have to adhere to those restrictions despite what our bylaw grants in terms of wording?
Definitely.
Right. Well, then it's a housekeeping regulation. It's a way of removing language that conflicts with the reality of another law that we've accepted and put into effect.
It does. I just want to I don't want to pull the wool over anybody's eyes either, and be full disclosure in saying that this would create a hard metric where there was a flexible metric before. And I know that there are people in town, when they hear a hard metric, they bristle, right?
Well, I guess that's where I'm trying to go with this is that if there's already a hard metric in place, which is the new federal regulations that we've accepted, no, not really enacted, but we have accepted them, that would make it so that any applicant who tried to point to this footnote, we'd have to say, well, no, we can't do it because the new regulations preclude it. So if that's the case, then I say take it out. If it's not the case, then I think it needs to be clearly stated that way when you take it to town meeting.
Right. I think so too. We definitely can make a argument about.
So can we make an exception to the federal drainage regulations?
We can. We can. We're stuck with our own stormwater bylaw, right?
Yeah.
Forget this. The reason we created our stormwater bylaw is because state and federal regulations mandated that we create one. And we have created one, and we followed the minimum guidelines that the state and the feds would allow us to do. And those minimum standards are more restrictive than a notion that you could have 30% runoff on a lot. Okay, so it is, more restrictive. But I just want to be clear, because I don't like to I don't pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I want everybody to understand that other districts, commercial districts in town, have a hard stop on how much lot coverage you can have. And that is irrespective of stormwater regulations. And what we are doing here is creating a hard stop on 2 districts that is irrespective of stormwater regulations. So it is that in its aggregate, it's doing 2 things, striking footnote 1. It's acknowledging that our stormwater bylaw is more restrictive than our zoning bylaw, and acknowledging that that's where you're going to look when you want to do stormwater management. But it's also creating a hard stop that is similar to the hard stops in the other districts. So just want to be clear.
Well, again, I'm just trying to go back to, if any regulation in our bylaw is less restrictive than federal law, which applies?
The federal law.
Okay. And so it would behoove us to remove any less restrictive language from our bylaw, because it just lets an applicant or an applicant's attorney point to our bylaw and say, well, you guys let us do that. And then we have to argue about it. And and so I don't want to have to argue about it if that is absolutely the truth. If we can offer something that is not, that is less restrictive, and we have it in our bylaw, then it becomes a much more interesting discussion.
No, I couldn't agree more. And the interesting thing about this bylaw is, I think, our veteran planning board member is Kathy, and I think she might have been around when this bylaw was implemented in the first place. Kathy, do you remember this bylaw being implemented? It was in the 80s, I think, or late 80s, early 90s. And I think you might have been on the board back then.
Yes, in fact, I was, and it had to do with the Aquifer Protection District almost exclusively at that time. And it was that if you could come up with an engineered solution to the recharge, that, you could increase your lot coverage. So you've articulated it very accurately. And I just, in reply to Mark's comment, I wouldn't call the federal guidelines on stormwater management enabling legislation. They're stronger than enabling, but it is pretty consistent that when a higher jurisdiction puts forth legislation and hands it down to municipalities, municipalities can be more restrictive, but they cannot be more liberal than the guiding legislation.
Yep.
So Mark White is correct, in his thinking that we're just sending mixed messages if we don't resolve the inconsistency that's created by leaving this language in.
And if you want to win on the floor of town meeting, that's the case that you make, Mark.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's muddy. It feels like you might be taking something away with one hand and giving it with another, but basically, we're not taking anything away that the federal government didn't already take. And that's really the easiest way to describe it if you're going to explain it to people.
Well, I agree, but I also think, if we look back and Kathy, her recollection comports with my research, which is that these were created to protect the Aquifer Protection District. Those protections don't help with respect to salinization. So to Cindy's point, and we had talked about this in the past, is that if you can create an engineered solution that keeps your water clean and it is something that is on the applicant who is getting the benefit to do, then why not let them? But I have talked to engineers, and there isn't any way to keep the salt that goes on the parking lot from getting in the water with drainage impoundments. The design of stormwater management is to have your lot recharge all the water that is on it and carrying with it anything that is in the water. But it definitely will keep your water cleaner with certain particulates. It'll keep it a lot cleaner with stormwater management, but not salt. Salt will go right through. So it doesn't help with the problems of today. So maybe we need a
It doesn't
change.
say anything about salt. So that you just murkied it up for me again.
No, well, it addresses total suspended solids, and salt, as we heard from one of our engineers, is not something that can be treated at that level, and so it does go into the water supply. So you're recharging the quantities, but to Mark's point, the quantities may include road salt or and such, and that you can't. So even though your quantities might be recharged at an equivalent amount, the potential for additional salinity is not being mitigated. So by removing this footnote, you're basically saying less surface equals less salt equals less salt into the recharge into the aquifer.
But I get Mark's point, which is keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And just tell it in a way that people can hear it at town meetings so that they'll get it. Totally get that.
Well, you put my antennas going off like crazy right now. It's like, so you just raised a whole nother issue within this. It doesn't say anything. The word salt doesn't appear here anywhere. Okay.
Right.
So that makes me feel like I'm not understanding completely what this means.
Right.
Okay. And that would disincline me to vote for it until I understood what the heck it means.
But let me simplify it again. Less pavement equals less salt. Less salt equals cleaner water.
Well, I get that. I mean, but if the federal regulations say you can't do it, then we just can't do it. And it has nothing to do with salt or anything else except for what the federal regulation says. If what you're saying is that this change, well, this would be a workaround around the federal regulation. I mean, that's how I'm hearing it now.
Right. All right, then I'll stop talking about it.
No, I mean, you better be prepared for those questions on the floor of town meeting, because that will torpedo this thing in a half a second.
I get it. I get what you're saying. Okay. Well, I got to work on that argument. And I think that, clearly I got to get ready for all the potential arguments that might be coming. And have a clear and simple message to give at time.
It's water quality, not quantity, that we're trying to address with this, if that helps. Okay.
Well, so what you're saying is the stormwater regs address water quantity.
The requirement for recharge, it addresses quantity. The quality is addressed in the stormwater regs to total suspended solids, but salt is not a total suspended solid, so that doesn't get addressed in any of the stormwater
regulations.
Right.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right.
Okay.
So what you're really driving at with this change is to reduce the amount of salt that goes into runoff, because the federal regs don't account for it.
That is true. That is true. That is one of the things this will do. The other things that this will do is it preserves, it's preservationist, and it preserves open spaces, which is also part of the master plan for those particular areas that are in question.
Well, then you can't sell it as just coming into compliance with federal regulations.
I wasn't trying to. I'm trying to give a big picture and give a big honest picture, and not try and
okay.
All right, might not get Mark's vote on this one.
Well, no, it's not that, Mark. It's got to be clear, and now it's
The message is not clear.
the message is not clear. If you're going to change it for a particular reason, then you need to state the reason clearly. Otherwise, people are going to feel hoodwinked.
Yep.
And then say it, and then let people vote for it, and then make our choices. And people are not going to vote against protecting their water resources. So you need to make you need to describe this differently as not just coming into compliance with federal regulations, because you couldn't do this any other way if you wanted to, rather than saying, well, you're covering a loophole
Right.
in the way that it works. Say it that way. Otherwise, you're not being honest about it.
No, I agree. I agree with you. But the thing is it is a multifaceted. This one little thing is multifaceted, right?
Then that's the fear here, is that small wording changes can have large effects, and if they're unknown what those effects are. I mean, again, Kathy, the planning board that you were on at the time that put this footnote into effect did it because they said, well, under certain circumstances, if you can show that you can take care of this, then we will allow it.
And it was the recharge rate. I mean, that was the issue, the recharge rate.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a blind eye as far as the qualitative content of what was in the water that was being recharged.
Then the argument needs to be made that it's not so much the recharge rate that we're worried about, nor that we should have been worried about. It was what was in it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good argument.
That's the argument.
That is the argument.
Okay, so you got to rework the argument. That's all.
No, I couldn't.
I'm not against this.
couldn't agree
I'm
more.
just saying is that I wouldn't want to find out at the end of it that it was not one thing, but it was something else.
No, I hear you. But I guess that's why I want to be forthright and say that there are, here are the components that are going to occur, and here's why it matters, and bring up all the things and let people, say, well, this could mess up,
No, salt is bad. Let's face it. I mean, we all decided that salt's bad because nobody wants to be drinking it.
Right.
That's a worthy goal. That's what you use as your argument.
Well, it's so bad that we're now proposing, $22 million in water, public water supply, municipal water supply. I mean, it's bad. So it's something to think about.
Okay.
All right. So, and then the last one, which is the one I think is easiest and most palatable to most people, because people love zoning incremental changes that have almost no effect. And this one almost has no effect. It's just clarification. So this one is minor word changes that won't impact the bylaw in terms of its application so much as it is for the user of the bylaw to look and see consistency in two portions of it. So the change here at 2158 is lot coverage shall mean the percentage of lot area that is occupied by buildings, structures, and impervious surfaces. So and I colored it wrong. It's structures and impervious surfaces are not in the definition currently, but they are on the dimensional table. So when you see the total percentage of lot coverage on the dimensional table, it has, which is table 502, it says in parentheses, total area covered by buildings, structures, and impervious surfaces. So that's how you read total lot coverage, regardless of what the definition of lot coverage is. Even though the definition differs from the table, the table's telling you what to include. And now all I'm saying is make the definition include that. This really almost just belonged in the recodification. Didn't really need to be a standalone thing. Pretty minor. But any thoughts on that?
Mark, what's ironic is I think back in the day, it included this wording, and I was surprised to see that you were having to add it back.
It may well have included it. It's,
I
you
think
know,
it
every
fell
time
off.
we go through a little iteration, we drop a comma here, drop a word there, and the next thing you know, you got a completely different meaning.
Exactly.
Maybe
I
we
just-
did a bylaw rewrite.
I just want to clarify, in the table, it's maximum lot coverage percentage by building structures and impervious surfaces. This is a definition for lot coverage.
Right.
To me, they should, if the change makes sense, they should be married up, but I just want to be clear that table says maximum lot coverage, and this is a definition for lot coverage, but we're really talking about the same thing. The maximum is the actual percentage. of
Amount
the
of
lot.
lot coverage allowed, yeah. So with that in mind, does anybody in the public have any questions or comments? And if you weren't here when you, when we went through the other two, I know some people have been added to the meeting. If you wanted to make a comment about any of the proposed changes, feel free to do so. So I see Rich Gazzardi's hands, and that's why I said that, because I knew Rich was in the audience, wanting to opine on something else. So go ahead, Rich Gazzardi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm sure there's been, Rich Gazzardi, 92 Reed Farm Road. I'm sure there's been comment on the first item, floor area ratio already. I guess, you know, and if we can kind of walk through this however you want, I guess as I look at it, you know, and looking at some of our neighboring communities, and albeit, you know, a fairly quick review of their dimensional restrictions, it does come out in that assessment that Boxborough today is pretty much among the most restrictive. I think Harvard matches us with a 0.1 floor area ratio. Other communities are not as restrictive. We are the only community in the pool that I looked at, the neighboring communities, that have both a floor area ratio as well as a lot coverage ratio. So, and some communities control density through building height, along with either the lot coverage ratio or the other, or the floor area ratio. And we do it all. We do building height restrictions. We do the floor area ratio restriction. We do the lot area coverage restriction. So we're already very restrictive. And I guess if I were to look at it, so really we're talking about buildings with a ceiling height of greater than 12 feet. I think many uses require more than 12 feet, or at least are using more than 12 feet today, right? So if I think of an office building that has a restaurant downstairs, or has, you know, an open space downstairs with a cafe and employee gathering spaces, those ceilings are, and I have never pulled out a tape measure and measured them, but they are quite, there's a lot of volume on that first floor, which tells me that they're greater than 12 feet. And I think that's
specifically referring to, Rich?
I mean, I've been in such buildings that have that kind of height. I'm not referring to a specific Boxborough building.
Is there like a mall or something that I can go to take a look at the ceiling heights?
Well, I think you can probably
You want to go to the point? How about I take the plans from the point and I analyze those?
Yeah, I don't know, Mark. I've been in, I mean, one specific building I've been in Woburn, where the Strega restaurant is, that's, I'm willing to bet that first floor has greater than 12-foot ceiling heights. You walk into the Vibalogics building, the front entrance, and it's a cavernous foyer with, you know, certainly that foyer goes up at least a couple stories. And some buildings have an even bigger front entryway. I've been in a building in Andover where you walk into the first floor, there's all offices basically on the 2nd through 5th or 6th floors. But on that first floor, it's a cavernous opening with a cafe, with employee gathering spaces, conference facilities. So I do think, and so that's one specific kind of multi-use application.
So Rich, let me ask you a couple quick questions about that building, just trying to get a picture for it. So would you call that an atrium building? where you have multiple stories open to one cavernous sort of high ceiling height space?
In one of those examples, sure.
Okay. And of the floor area, the gross floor area of that building, how much would you estimate was actually in the atrium?
I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know.
Okay, because I agree with you. I've seen a lot of buildings in my day, and I permitted a lot of buildings, and I permitted atrium buildings before in the past, and they tend to have like a lot of buildings, including Vibalogics, where they have a sort of a nice, very tall, ornate entrance, and then you get down to business. But the difference, I think, with the Vibalogics one is that they hogged out not the entire building, but a significant portion of the building to be the same height as that, entrance atrium, which is pretty much the reason why we're proposing this.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that where I kind of was going to go is that a lot of the uses today, and they're not warehouse uses, right? Well, I don't think warehouse is really an issue because that's not even allowed in most of our, or at least it's not allowed in the office park. But the ceiling heights today are demanding that, right? So if you look at Vibalogics, they needed it because there's a lot of infrastructure. In fact, the only way that the building worked for Vibalogics and Aranta Bio was Lincoln Properties agreeing to do exactly what you described, right? Hollow out that middle of the building and take the second floor out so that allowed them to put their process capability on, in what would be the ground floor, and then use that space, which I don't know how much clearance they needed. I think they needed like 20 feet in order to get their ventilation in and a lot of their utilities. So that's a high demand space. And I think we're seeing today that, that's actually a pretty well done concept. They use that existing building, but clearly, and I don't know what would happen if you took their lot and you you cut their floor area ratio in half. I guess where I'm going with this is we're already restrictive. If you look at a single story building with greater than 12-foot ceiling heights, you're basically saying that they're going to get a 10-foot or 10% max lot coverage, which is not a lot. I mean, that 10% is that's 10%, right? It's you've got a 30% lot coverage allowance. Now, are they going to have 20% in parking and other structures? Well, I don't know, maybe, but 10% is a very small number to say, well, we're going to go to 5% now because for whatever, I don't know, we will then absolutely be the most restrictive. And maybe I understand the concern, right? Maybe the way to go at this is, do we create an incentive rather than restrict what people can do today? Do we create an incentive where you'll provide more latitude on floor area ratio for a mixed use type facility? So Concord actually has, and I don't know, they've got a lot of different districts between village districts and industrial districts, but they actually have by use an increase in the floor area ratio for certain uses, which might be a better approach, right? Let's not take anything away. Instead, let's go incentivize maybe something different, right? So anyway, those are my comments.
I appreciate the comments. Thank you very much, Rich. But I do have some questions for you because right now we have 1.7 million square feet being proposed in Boxborough. So it is your opinion that we should allow 1.7 million square feet of high cube flex space come in and raise the office park buildings that we have, and the future permitted office park buildings in the office park district, we should not build them, and we should build 1.7 million square feet of high cube flex space. Is that right?
No, I don't think that's my position. So I would start with, you said there's 1.7 million square feet of space. I don't know if that is permittable. And that's frankly the job. I mean, you guys have the hard work, right, of having to kind of go through that with the town planner, et cetera. If the 1.7 million square feet includes everything that was in the MIPA permit for Adams Place, I'm not sure that
it does
works.
not. It does not.
It
That one,
does not. Okay.
1.7 million square feet is less than half of it is in the MEPA filing.
Okay. And so that's on how many acres?
I want to say it's 200 acres, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that works. 200 acres.
Wait, I think you guys are talking about different things. Can you clarify? Rich, you're asking Mark, of the 1.7 million potential square feet, is some of that part of the Lincoln Properties proposal?
The answer is 600,000 square feet
of the 1.7 million.
Right.
Okay.
600,000 square feet. I'm sorry, what was that? I missed it.
Well, you asked about the MEPA filing. The answer, how much of the one, you said 1.7 million square feet, you referred to the MEPA filing. I said it is not all in the MEPA filing. In fact, less than half of what's being proposed is in the properties that are included in the MEPA filing. And on that property already, there's 290,000 square foot of high cube warehouse. And there's also a large scale solar array of 22 acres on that particular parcel, and then an access road of an additional about 5 acres. But then there is, in the other parts of town, Rich, I've given you an Excel spreadsheet that contains the properties. You can take a look at that. I gave that to you before your last EDC meeting, and it shows them peppered throughout the industrial district and the office park districts on both sides of 111.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, my position is not that we take out office buildings and go with a specific style of development. My only point is that if we're trying to incentivize something, let's go create an incentive. I don't know that 1.7 million is actually permittable based on what's been proposed, right? So by the time you look at the 0.1 floor area ratio, by the time you look at the 30% lot area coverage with all the permeable surface, impermeable surface, by the time you look at the wetlands restrictions and I don't know what's permittable on that 1.7. And I wouldn't propose raising office buildings. What I would propose is that we should be supportive of uses that will actually occur, right? Office buildings they're great when you have the need for office buildings. Today, you're finding even in the uses we have now, Cisco has a lab in their facility. It's not just raw office buildings. So it's going to be some kind of a mixed commercial use. For us to see a big office building going up in Boxborough and have a developer excited about doing that, I think is a stretch right now.
Rich, couldn't agree more about the office and office use being an exciting use. In fact, the problem I think that I have right now is that you're saying you don't know that all of this stuff could potentially be built. And I'm thinking there's a good chance that it could be, which is the reason why we are moving so rapidly. And I understand that trying to, illuminate that is a difficult thing, but yeah, I do think that could be the case. And yes, right now, the highest and best use of real estate is high cube flex space for research and development, life sciences, for warehouse. And yes, they're being proposed in the industrial district where warehousing and distribution can be done. I'm definitely not opposed to the idea of creating specific incentives for uses that we need. But right now, as you point out, those uses need incentive because nobody is finding them marketable. But they are finding this particular use marketable, in fact, uber marketable. And the question is should we maybe curtail some of it, which, by the way, keep in mind, none of the restrictions that are being placed would prevent them from doing it. At best, it prevents them from doing all of it. Most of the applications that we're seeing before us right now are either not going to be impacted whatsoever, or they will be restricted by a quantity of it, not its entirety. So believe me, when and they're even on the call right now, when engineers spend a lot of time putting these applications together, they are doing it as they did with the MIPA filing. They go through our bylaw and they say, this is permittable and this is what we are proposing. In fact, they go to MIPA and they say, here's what the zoning allows in this district, and here's what we're proposing to build. And at that point, without some hard metrics, you make it very, very difficult to stop any of it. Even the worst of the worst is very difficult to stop. So that's why we are proposing it. I do appreciate down the road, happy to work with the EDC to come up with an incentive program for less desirable uses. But right now the highest and best use is on fire, and it's high cube flex space. And that's why we are proposing what we're proposing.
How many acres are affected if you look at the land mass you're trying to address here?
Rich, I gave you a map of it at your last meeting, and I'm happy to calculate the square footage of it. But even if I did, it's difficult. It would be a very time consuming project for me to actually go and scale down everybody's plan and come up with the areas of buildings versus the areas of parking versus the other areas. And I just don't think that I can get that done, before town meeting. I don't know that once done, I'm not sure that data would be, beneficial.
All right, I'll take a look at the map you sent. Thank you.
Yep. Kathy.
The other thing, when we're talking about our industrial commercial area and some of the office park, it's not just the quantitative, it's the qualitative character of the land, because it is our most permeable soils. It is our aquifer areas. And I think this was one of the errors, perhaps, of the original zoning map, because they presumed that put your heaviest construction in the easiest to tool soils. And because they're water-bearing soils, that is potentially a disastrous mistake. And so I would be in favor of limitations to protect the, water interests in those areas.
Well, you raise a great point. Initially, the office park districts were the industrial districts, and we changed them to office park districts to try, since when does conservation mean restricting everything? Well, it doesn't. But when it means judicious use of your real estate or your resource. But when that real estate and resource become scarcer and scarcer, you begin to shift to preservation. And right now, we all know what's wrong with our water supply, and we all know the risks that we're taking with it. And so as things begin to with development begins to increase, so does the restrictions. That's usually how it works. When things for example, in the 70s, when things were, flat, that might have been a time to have very unrestricted regulations where you'll take anything you can get in terms of development. But we're not there right now. We're in a different place, and our regulations need to reflect that.
Well, and I think we need to have a long view of, the restrictions and the things we're trying to protect.
And I think we can do that, and we can also incentivize as
I agree.
Proposed. We can incentivize the things we want, but this meeting, we're trying to just get a handle on what's occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy.
Yeah, and not to restate the obvious, but there are uses today that weren't envisioned when the bylaws, were formulated. And when this district was changed over from industrial commercial to office park, there was no envision that, that lab sciences and pharmaceutical light manufacturing would be a use. I mean, biotech didn't exist back in the 80s, or maybe in some form it did, and high cube warehouses weren't a thing. So, we are trying to be responsive and looking forward to capture, what we anticipate. So, we try not to be so reactive, but this is a proactive move that we can always pare back. But, I think it makes good sense. And from a planning perspective, land is finite. We all know that. And, we're entrusted as an elected board right now with doing the best we can to plan for future use of that land. So just again, restating the obvious, but not all of this was anticipated when the bylaws were developed over the years. And I think we need to be responsive to what's going on currently and what we anticipate. So thanks.
And to be clear, none of these proposals, none of them would completely curtail any project that we've seen come to us. It may restrict some of them and won't restrict others, ironically. Campanelli's got a great deal of real estate. And so you're talking about a floor area ratio. Yes, a lot of the area is very sensitive, but they have a great deal of it. So they're going to be probably building out everything that if they wanted to, they could probably build it all out as high cube flex space if we let them. So, this is not as restrictive or as catastrophic to the fiscal well-being of Boxborough as it may seem.
Well, I just add one thing too. I can't raise my hand. I can't figure out when I'm showing this other screen. It's hard for me to figure out where to click. But Rich asked, in the way he opened with that was all these other communities that surround us have the same or less restrictive. And my reply to that might well be that, well, how many of those communities are solely on well water? And really, I mean, this summer with this summer's drought, where clearly even the select board started to talk about water use bulletins. If our water goes south, we're in deep trouble, and it's where we're the most sensitive and the most exposed. And so I think in that respect, I mean, if you put it in those terms, is that it's all about water resources and the protection of that resource. I think that's the only really palatable way to talk about it, because all the other stuff is kind of, well, it's landowners have their rights and they should be able to develop it as long as they don't injure us. And our concern is the water resources. And again, I mean, what Kathy just said earlier, which is, basically in hindsight, it was in our ignorance. We decided that, the swamp is what you filled in back then. That's where you put your dump. Okay. Which is now sitting on top of the prime aquifer in town. And then we cited all our commercial industries there because Route 495 was there. And that was a mistake. We made a mistake back then. We're trying to rectify it now. And it's going to be a tough balancing act that we have to do. So that's all. We just got to be careful about how we do it, because I think some of these businesses are real good for us. It's a good match for us. They're low use, high yield. If they can their water and get it out of here, their processed water, then I think we're in good shape. So, we've got to kind of thread the needle, I think, on this one and be careful with exactly how restrictive we make it.
I would totally agree with that we should not stop, put a moratorium on this type of development. I would certainly.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, when you take a 0.1% and turn it to 0.05, you're basically cutting it in half. Literally.
You are, but
Okay.
It's not putting a hard stop. That's saying instead of 1.5 million, right, or 1.7 million, that might only be 750,000.
Well, again, that 1.7 is arguable, and then all the numbers are arguable. But half, you're cutting it in half though. I
Right.
mean, you know, the reality of it is exactly that, you're cutting it in half.
Right.
So maybe there's a different number that might be more palatable to people too. That's something you might want to consider.
That's a fair argument. Kristen,
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not anti-protecting our water resources. So that I just want to get that right out there. So a couple of comments. I'm not. I like clean water. All right. So a couple of things. One is just an observation. You guys all know I saw a lot of houses in town. People that move to Boxborough are scared to death of wells, and they do quantity and quality tests. I haven't had any issues with either beyond what we already know about sodium, manganese, and pH. So the good news is in all areas of town, nobody has failed their water quantity test. And I'm not saying it wouldn't fail next week. I'm just saying as of right now. My next thing is that I'd love to know how the Water Resources Committee could factor into some of this discussion, because I'm thinking that water use is often dependent upon the density, the number of people that are in a building, right? That are drinking, using bathrooms. Is there some component to any application that comes in that examines the number of gallons they think they're going to bring in and shoot out? That's my ignorance. Like, do we do that?
so we do not regulate anything of that nature. So DEP does, and so does the Board of Health, depending upon the size of the systems. So,
Right.
but we do.
No, I do understand that. And I think about like at 1414 with Fiber Logics and all that, I believe that they actually have limited water use. They've got tight tanks with what comes in goes out. So I'm using that as kind of that example in my head is how do we understand the true impact to the aquifer relative to development? And I mean, I guess that's my whole point. I'll stop babbling.
Well, funny you should mention that, because
I love it.
This is a discussion that we are looking into right now to get an assessment. And we are currently talking with several consultants to see about a baseline assessment to help answer that question. And, we have placeholder right now for a warrant article at town meeting to fund such an assessment, because we're all grappling with that question, right? How much is too much? DEP will permit a well on a location specific basis. They look at a radius around the well, they look at pump tests, they say, okay, this well can produce X amount, and, the radius around it will only be impact, they maybe look, 500 feet or whatever. But, beyond that, what happens? And what if, 3 of those wells are drilled, in different locations? So we're trying to get a baseline so we can understand the cumulative impact going forward. And we have this on our agenda to discuss later tonight, but we are trying to answer that question and at least get a baseline, and Water Resources Committee is very supportive of that. We've already spoken with them, and we're just trying to pull together a scope of work that could define that at a reasonable price at this point.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep. So that's part of the coming agenda, but the Water Resources and the Planning Board have said both agreed that they should have a water study done to assess our water quality in our aquifer. So that's something that's forthcoming. Let's see. Okay, so, we didn't get a lot of comments with this bylaw, proposed bylaw amendments. I'm trying to get back to my agenda. There we go. What do you think we should do here? Should we issue a report? Should we are running out of time. That's the thing. If we want to issue a report, it has to be written up.
Well, I think the planning board has to vote whether to recommend these prior to town meeting, and we may want to tweak the language after tonight's discussion. I don't know. But ultimately we'll need to vote to recommend or not.
I agree. We should vote to recommend to put these forward, and then I think we could, write a report for these bylaws, and then we could bring the reports back to the planning board for a vote. And then we could submit that if there's time for the warrant. Is that a way we should proceed?
I'm not quite sure what you were suggesting. I think if we vote to recommend,
Suggesting.
are we ready to vote on the language tonight? I guess is the first question. If there seems to be some tweaking necessary, then we should discuss that. But I don't think the report is basically what we present at town meeting, you know, that we had the hearings and that we voted whichever way and what the, you know, what the amendments are about.
That could be the report, or the report could be that we need to make amendments to the to our own submittal based on what we've heard tonight.
But the language in the warrant isn't fixed yet. We still have time to make changes to the language before it's printed in the warrant.
Okay. So no one has brought forth a proposal for a change, but we should before we close the meeting tonight. And that includes anyone, you know, on the call. I get where Rich Gazzardi is and Kristen Hilberg, and I appreciate their input on this. But short of just saying you're not comfortable with it, is there anything in the language specifically that could be perfected to make you happier with it? And would either of you like to propose anything?
Yeah, I guess, Mark, in the, you know, my head's, I'm still having a tough time getting my head around a floor area ratio based on a ceiling height, when a floor area ratio is intended to be a density constraint, right? So you're sort of trying to get the limitation to include all the floors and all the people and all the stuff put in there. But when you actually have taller ceilings, you actually have less density. I'm really having a tough time with a ceiling height based floor area ratio restriction. And I'm sure there are other ways to attack this. And I you know, I'm just not, I can't come up with anything right now.
Okay, so you don't have any language proposed. Thanks, Rich. Kristen, do you have anything you would like to see changed?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So board members, is there any language tweaks that you'd like to make to any of the proposals that we've went through tonight?
Do you want to vote them one by one, or do you want to vote them as a slate of three?
Well, I'd like to hear any proposals for changes.
I don't have any changes.
Hold on. I can't raise my hand because that part goes away from my screen. So, I mean, if what you're proposing is that we now in the 11th hour propose changes to this, I mean, one of the things I could put out there, and I agree with Rich. I mean, the whole idea of floor area ratio was to speak to density, and we're kind of going the other way from it. So, and where did you find 12 feet? How does 12 feet make the magic number? And what would happen if it was 13 feet? What would happen if it was 16 feet? Would it change things measurably? Does it address the issues that you're really concerned with, which is impact on water resources? I mean, again, my gut feeling on all of this is that it's really all about water resource. And I mean, to me, it's, you know, not just water resources, but it's traffic. Traffic is a huge impact, and light. And so what does 12 feet mean to that? Well, it's just, to me, it's just kind of a random number that got pulled out of a hat. That's, well, if it's any bigger than what we've already got. I guess that's kind of the way I'm reading it. And so I'm just wondering how this is going to fare on the floor of town meeting, when you're going to either get a lot more input or it's going to be just like tonight. If it's just like tonight, then it's a slam dunk. I mean, nobody's here tonight. Nobody seems to care about it. So,
Well, the purpose, well, let's talk about it. The purpose behind the height limitation is because when you go over a certain height, the buildings are built as single-story units only. And that means that if you wanted to take that floor area, instead of efficiently stacking it, you're now spreading it out over the entire lot. So that means that you're not, you know, this is a master plan issue, that these are single-use buildings where we are, where the master plan is calling for us to encourage mixed-use development.
Well, but you're saying you're encouraging, I mean, in that case, then you're encouraging sprawl, basically spreading out more over the lot, but you still get the lot, but then you're clamping down on the lot coverage. So when you include, and again, the impervious surfaces, I think was already covered in there, but while it makes the building be bigger to get the same amount of square footage, you're still limited in how much square footage you can put on the lot, period, anyway. So again, ceiling height by itself, I mean,
well, again, let me just complete the argument. When you build a certain size ceiling, you have a single-story building. That's how they're building, okay? These single-story buildings are single-use buildings. So they are, you know, they will be used for one use only.
what use is that, Mark?
Well, it's a single use, and it can be one of four things. It can be warehouse and distribution. It can be manufacturing. It can be light manufacturing, or it can be R&D. Those are the four uses that a high cube flex space building is proposed for. They don't build 30-foot ceilings in an office park.
Well, that's not a single use, that's four uses. So
yes, but each building is one use. So when you build that one building, it is a single use building. It is not a mixed use building. When you put them on a lot, it's a single use, you know, lot. If you build a typical office park building, it is convertible to multiple uses. It is multiple stories. The first floor can be retail, mercantile, restaurant. The second floor could be top of the shop housing, could be office park space. Those are your classic examples of mixed use buildings. Those mixed use buildings are never, you know, single story high cube flex space. It's always one use. It could be one of four different uses in the industrial district, or it could be one of two uses in the office park district, but it's a single use building. Okay, so that's what the master plan is trying to discourage. Okay, that's what this bylaw would discourage. I get the idea that it's hard to understand why a ceiling height might have to do with that, but you build your building to suit the use, right? Form follows function. So if you build a building with a high ceiling and it's a single story, you know, it's going to be for a specific use.
well, but we've got, nobody's wanting to convert to these multiple uses, the existing buildings that are already here.
Exactly. Which is, again, you know, zoning is not it doesn't dangle carrots. Zoning is a shield. And all it does is say, we've got too much of one thing. Let's cut that amount in half, right? That's a good use of zoning. What zoning is not, hey guys, come on down. Let me, you know, if I build, it's field of dreams zoning. If I tell you you can build a restaurant here, then Boxborough will be flooded with restaurants. We've proven that to ourselves that that's not what zoning does. Zoning is there to be the shield. If we have too much, then if we have too much coming down the pike, let's cut that amount in half, you know, and let's leave the rest for other uses. And sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes, you know, it isn't two competing uses coming in today who are fighting over it. Sometimes it's, well, we need to save a little space for the next one. That's the purpose. So is it about water protection? Yes. Is it about encouraging or discouraging single-use buildings? Yes. Is it still allowing the standard square footage for mixed-use buildings? Yes. So that's how zoning works. It just doesn't do what people hope it does. It's zoning is not fuzzy. Zoning is not a scalpel. It's a sledgehammer. Go ahead, Kristen.
Oh, no, I'm listening to all of that. And is that a mindset or is that a maxim? Because why can't zoning be used to attract more of what you want and shield what you don't? Like if we only think about it as a shield and building the wall, for lack of a better word, I'm not meaning to be political. Again, why can't we attract what we want?
Well, because the free market doesn't operate that way. Okay. I see Vince Canestrano got here. I wonder if anyone gave him a call. Why doesn't zoning work that way? Why doesn't zoning, why isn't it fuzzy and warm and you invite people? Well, the answer is what Vincent is about to tell us, and that is he's got a highest and best use in mind when the most easily marketable one. And
you're kind of taking my words out of context. What I meant is it can be a mindset that if we have the time.
Kristen, I'm happy to hear from you. Hold on a moment.
Okay, sorry. I thought I was still on the table. No, I thought I was still on the table. Sorry.
No, you were interrupting me. So let me just finish what I was saying. So the market drives what is proposed, right? And you don't need zoning to let the market do what it wants. You need no zoning to let the market do what it wants. So when you're talking about being warm and fuzzy, you're talking about no zoning. So, we tried that as a country and we decided nationally that no zoning was not a good plan. So what zoning did was come in and say, building block zoning, you can do this here and you can do only certain quantities of it here. That's what zoning is all about. So, and that's why it seems like, we're not encouraging zoning. The maximum encouragement is no zoning at all, right? So the minute you zone, you discourage. But Vincent, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very hesitant to speak, and I'm
Excuse me, could you introduce yourself, please? I'm sorry.
Oh, certainly. Vincent Canestraro. I'm a broker with the Stubblebine Company, and I've also been working with Travis Snell on 60 Codman Hill Road. And I'm really not too worried about Codman Hill Road in the context of this discussion. But I wanted to just offer my thoughts and suggestions because my impression is that Boxborough as a town has somewhat struggled with how to reposition their empty office buildings and space. I realized that was an issue for a lot of candidates on the board. And just touching on Mark's discussion about how the 12-foot came about and in thinking about it, I understand sometimes the struggle of trying to accomplish a lot with a bylaw change. The buildings of today are more than 12-foot clear in almost any occupancy. The architects, the companies, everybody wants more than 12.
For what use, Vincent?
For virtually anything other than perhaps strict office. Biotech is now 16 feet, 18 feet clear. The ductwork's larger, the piping system's more complex, the ceilings are higher, the egos are bigger. My suggestion, and it's just literally
what
a
about
suggestion.
manufacturing, Vincent?
Manufacturing, a lot of times it's more than 12, right? But I looked at your problem and worked at it backwards.
What about warehouse?
Yeah. Let me, that's what I'm saying. You don't want Amazon. You don't want distribution. Those are the 25, 30-foot. Your bylaw allows 45-foot clear in the industrial zone. So to me, a much more maybe effective way, I would pick something like 25-foot clear, because when you're getting to 25-foot clear, now you're getting into big distribution or serious warehouse, but not 12, not 14, not 18, not even 22. That's just hey, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I know you care a lot about your town. It's just, in my opinion, that would strike a much more, I think that gets most of what you want to accomplish. I mean, for what that's worth, that keeps out all your distribution. That keeps out all your really heavy warehousing. But the flex user, there's so many good companies out there that want 18, 20, maybe something. The reason I'm also picking, let's say, 25-foot clear is that a few years from now, when someone's off to another term or there's a new board and someone else comes in and wants to put a floor in and get two 12-foot floors, that's why I'm picking that kind of 25-foot, because it won't be easily possible for someone to put another floor in. I mean, then it would automatically count, I suppose, but that's why I'm picking that. For what that's worth. I'm trying to be, please understand, I've got more to lose than by opening my mouth than to gain. But I'm honestly trying to be helpful.
Appreciate that, Vincent. So what is a warehouse ceiling height in your view? Because you know this stuff. So what's a warehouse?
I mean, everybody gets excited when it's 26, 28-foot clear. That's when people, get excited, especially in expensive real estate markets, right? You get another pallets come in 4 foot. So if you're 6, it's 24-foot clear. All of a sudden, 20, 28-foot clear, and people are like, wow.
So what was the answer there? I'm sorry.
I think that somewhere between 24, 28-foot clear. When you get to 28-foot clear, you get into now you get into the Amazons of the world, 28, 32, 36.
What about R&D?
R&D? I mean, a lot of R&D, yeah, you're 18-foot clear. A lot of these R&D, the fact of the matter is a lot of these companies still have some warehousing component, but they're, 18 to 22-foot clear, somewhere there.
Okay.
They're not 12, 13, 14. They just aren't. Because a lot of them, take the fabricator with pipe in 24-foot lengths. Not, look at Canastraro with the Seaport, and not just because they're my family, but I mean, that's a good company. And it's 24-foot lengths. And by the time you get a fabrication facility and you put steel in to hold the cranes to move the pipe, and the pipe is 22, 21-foot length minimum, steel can go 24, you can't do it on 18-foot clear. I mean, there's a lot of good companies out there, sheet metal companies, piping companies. Sure, it won't be all of your use, but it's going to keep out your Amazons, your 3PLs, all those people with a lot more traffic and a lot more trucks. My opinion.
All right. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you.
I thought I saw maybe Rich's hand up. Rich, did you take your hand down?
Yeah, I was just gonna, sort of come at it from the standpoint of if really what you're trying to do is the dealing with it through the FAR just seems like it's coming at it through the back door, and maybe you just come in the front door and you just call it what it is. It's lot coverage. I mean, you're basically saying you get a 10% lot coverage for a single story building at whatever ceiling height you determine.
I think my problem with that, Rich, is that as much as zoning is a sledgehammer, I prefer to target, right? So if you want me to make a rule that talks about lot coverage, well, that covers everything, right? So is that really the best way to go about targeting something that would help encourage a different type of construction? So
yeah, I don't know that it encourages anything. I'm just trying to keep it simple. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead. I see that waving hand, Mark. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, given what Vincent just said and how I feel about this, one way to go is to move the ceiling height up. I mean, because truly, I mean, part of what he said is true, is that if you keep it under 22, 24, then you're keeping out Amazon warehouses. That part is pretty clear. Unless we could do some quick research and find out if there's any Amazon warehouses that are less than that. So you're keeping out your worst. And again, if our zoning is meant to protect and shield, then what you're trying to do is protect and shield from the worst instances that you can perceive. But to just put 12 is really quite restrictive in a world where 12, 13, 14, no big deal, no big difference. And so I don't know, or change the number of the FAR, move it to, instead of 0.1, 0.75. I mean, there's other ways to play it too, but the ceiling height, I don't know. I'm balking at that because it precludes a lot of other things that could be good for us.
Well, it precludes nothing. It just
reduces.
It reduces.
Well, look, okay. I mean, the reality of it is, if you make a project so small that it's not economically viable, then nobody's going to build it. So we're not developers. I mean, I know any developer you're going to ask us says it's going to be twice as big than it is now. Okay. So then they settle for what it is now, but now you're cutting it in half yet again. Nobody's going to do it. So in a sense, what you're really doing is slamming the door on future development of anything but the most minimalist. And so I think what VibaLogix just did is a good fit for this town. I mean, in pretty much every way. I mean, there's little that we can say about that doesn't work for us. If you put them everywhere, sure, that's a problem. And so, the density of those kinds of businesses and having too many too much of the same type of development. I mean, again, the diversity of development, I think, is something that we're trying to accomplish here. I just don't see where that accomplishes it. That doesn't accomplish diversity. All it does is reduces it to non-viability. I mean,
is that what we're talking about, though? I mean, think of the lots that are in those districts, right? I mean, there's, hundreds of acres. There are 20-acre, 40-acre lots. The smallest of them all is the one Vincent's proposing. Well, it's the second smallest of them all.
Well, it's already there. I mean, and so they benefit from the fact that it's pre-existing non-conforming,
which is fine. I'm just saying that no one is being, your argument about reducing the size to make it unviable, I don't think is a valid argument if the real estate is ginormous. You're really just cutting the quantity of them, right?
Well, then what you're driving is, I mean, it's the same thing that towns are trying to do against mega housing, is rather than having compact, affordable, densely packed housing, what we're ending up doing is making people put up, mega mansions of, $15 million a pop on 10 acres of land. I mean, so have it your way. I mean, you can have it either way you want. I mean, but it's just.
Well, whoa.
It works.
Let's not compare an apple to an orange here. I mean,
Well,
you've got hundreds of acres. You've got an argument to say put half as much of one type on the real estate, right? That is a far cry from saying we're going to have minimum lot sizes of a certain sort that only promote mansions. I'm cutting it in half and not saying mansions. I'm saying don't build the 1 million square foot high cube warehouse just because you can fit it on the lot.
We can argue it till we're blue in the face. The question is whether or not you want to modify this article to, if you think this article will pass that the way that you've written it, then this board will vote to go forward with it. If you think that you run the chance of it being shot down, then you will figure out some way to make this somewhat more palatable to the people who might not vote for it. So that's what I'm proposing here, is that
which is
somehow fiddle with this.
I'm asking. Tell me how.
I'd say instead of 12 feet, go 18 or 20. It accomplishes 90% of what you want it to do.
Okay. So once you get to 18, you double the amount of square footage.
Yeah. And well, I mean, again, it's just a stupid random number. That's the problem. I'm not basing it on any knowledge of fact other than what Vincent just said. But if I took what Vincent just said at face value, I'd say it'd be 22. It'd be probably do it too. So, where do you go with it that makes it make sense? So,
well, I agree. I agree that the number itself is, I wouldn't call it arbitrary. I would say that you can't define the difference between say 12 foot and 12 foot 1 inch, right?
Right.
What would be the impact difference from 12 foot to 12 foot 1 inch?
That's right.
But if you go to 16 feet, well, according to Vincent, you've now just radically changed the equation because he says biotech fits in there. So, and if you go to, and that's why I wrote down the numbers that he was saying. And if you go to 18, again, Vincent, these are, anecdotal numbers. I'm not, but if you go to 18, you've now radically changed from 16, right? And you go from 24, now you've radically changed, the numbers yet again. So what I'm proposing is that there is a spot where you go from uses that require high cube flex space to non-high cube flex space. And that was the number that I proposed. Certainly we can push the number around. It's just a metric, right? We can push it around. We can include more into it. What we probably will find is that, if we push it too high, it will become irrelevant and we shouldn't do it at all, right? And if we put it too low, well, we might impact other uses other than biotech, warehousing, light manufacturing, and R&D and warehousing. So the question is, what do you want to include and what do you want to exclude with that? And how, because when you hit a certain point, you may as well not do it at all, right? Now you've just really, all you've done is, made people build buildings that kind of suit their needs, but it's all that they can do and they can jam in the highest and best use into that space. So, that's where that's my question. So where do you want to push the number?
I'm comfortable with 12 feet. I think the intention is the appropriate intention. If we got that 1.7 million square feet all today, and that's pretty much what that number is based on. This is all real proposals. This isn't fiction. These are all based on actual proposals. And that gets all built out and it starts to look like our office parks, and then that all gets vacated. We are stuck with a lot of real estate. So I am very much in favor of keeping the 12 foot and moving forward with the language as is.
And then what happens when we build out 1.7 million square feet and the taxes rise, right? And, the FinCom and the select board immediately start spending all of that money, right? And then what happens when the high cube flex space isn't as popular as we've seen with the office parks? And we've put all our eggs in one basket because we didn't want to restrict anything. And then what happens? Well, I can tell you, it's called financial Armageddon because we've got Prop 2.5. We can't raise the taxes, the tax rate high enough to cover the abatements, and we lose $20 million out of our budget. And in the meantime, what happens to the quality of life in Boxborough, and what happens to the open space that we've got? I mean, these are the questions that need to be answered. So these are the reasons for the proposals. This is serious. It's not, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but it is very serious what Boxborough will look like in 5 years' time with this level of development in 10 square miles.
Look just like a wall, fam. I just want to add too that these are very sensitive areas that we're talking about over here. I know we've touched on that just a bit, but there's priority habitat over here, the Aquifer District. It's a huge amount of trees, wooded lands too, that we really need to take consideration around.
I agree. I mean, when you look at this proposal, there's a couple of lots where you won't even be able to build what's being proposed, but only a couple. The one we heard today would comply with 32 acres of real estate. We just heard one that would this thing will satisfy. They get to build their 40-foot tall building that towers over the hotel on a pretty, a really, really tough lot by their own admission. So, I mean, that's just one example. I'm not sure that this thing is as restrictive as people think it is.
Mark, it's getting on to close to 10 o'clock. I totally appreciate this discussion. So I would either suggest we to either take a vote or move to continue to the October 3rd night when we're having the other discussion on zoning. So just want to make people aware of the time. We still have to go to executive session tonight. We have a couple other topics.
Well, if somebody want to make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion to change it to 18 feet.
Is there a second? Okay, hearing none. The motion didn't carry. Is there another motion?
I will move to vote individually on the three proposed zoning bylaw amendments as identified in the memo from Mark Barbadaro that's shown on the screen here. I don't have the date, but I'd like to vote them individually.
Okay.
I'll second that too.
Okay, let me pull it up. Sorry, one moment.
Do I have that up on screen now or what?
You do. You just scroll down just to see the date of the letter.
Because, oh, you can't see the whole thing?
Oh, That would be me. Sorry. That would be me. Yes. August 15th letter.
Okay. So, do you want to, all right, well, let's handle them one by one. Okay. We just had a motion. It didn't carry on modifying the height to 18 feet, right? Is there another motion?
Move to recommend the change to the definition 2136 floor area ratio to add the language identified in red on the, as shown on the letter dated August 15th, 2022 to the select board from Chairman Mark Barbadaro.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was to approve this language by Cindy Markowitz, seconded by Kathleen Vorse. Any discussion? Hearing none. Okay. Kathy.
Vorse, aye.
Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
Rebecca Werner.
Werner, aye.
Mark White.
Right? No.
And Mark Barbadaro, aye. Okay, carries 4 affirmative, 1 negative. Next.
These again are recommendations that will be included in the warrant.
Yep. So next motion is we're entertaining a motion to either change. Does anybody have any change they want to do to strike footnote 1 on table 5002 dimensional schedule? I hear none.
Okay, I move to recommend the language is the striking of the footnote 1 and 5002 dimensional schedule as shown in the letter to the select board from Mr. Barbadaro dated August 15, 2022.
Is there a second? Okay, so moved by Cindy, seconded by Kathy. Kathleen Vorse. Oh, wait, is there any discussion? Hearing none. Kathleen Vorse.
Vorse, aye.
Mark White.
Aye.
Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
Rebecca Werner.
Werner, aye.
And Mark Barbadaro, aye. Okay. Moving on to the proposed amendment to section 2158, lot coverage. Is there any discussion about lot coverage? Any changes anyone wants to make? Hearing none. Okay.
Mark, I might want to put the word structures, and if you say that that is what's being added, put it in red.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So
yeah, I was going to make the motion and amend that.
Okay. So then the proposal is to add the language, comma, structures, comma, and impervious surfaces. Okay. That's what the motion's going to be. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I move to amend the definition of lot coverage, definition number 2158, to add the language, quote, comma, structures and impervious surfaces, unquote, as identified in the letter from Mark Barbadaro to the select board dated August 15, 2022.
Second.
Okay, moved by Cindy, seconded by Kathleen. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Kathleen Vorse.
Vorse, aye.
Mark White.
White, aye.
Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
Rebecca Werner. Was that a Werner aye? I couldn't. Okay. And Mark Barbadaro aye. Okay. So that's done. Let's move on.
Mark, could I ask you to close the hearing for the minutes, please?
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Rebecca, seconded by Cindy. Any discussion? Hearing none. Rebecca Werner.
Werner, aye.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Are we closing it or continuing it?
We are closing it. That's the motion on the floor.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So I think it's been moved and seconded.
Can I just add a comment? If folks still want to write written comments, they can send those to the planning department, correct? Or
Yes,
is the comment period over?
No, I'd say it is over, but I'd say send them anyway. Rebecca Vernon,
Burner, aye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Markowitz, aye.
Mark White.
Wait, I got a hand up there too.
Yep. And Mark Barbadoro, aye. And I see Michael Toops raised his hand. Michael.
Clarification, you're closing the hearing only on the additions or on the recodification?
Not on the recodification. We actually haven't opened the hearing on the recodification. That will be next meeting.
Okay, fair enough.
Hey, Vincent, we're happy to give you a copy of this. It's public record. I can't hear you. You're muted, but
That's not, no worries. Thank you.
all right.
It's all good.
Let's see. All right, moving on. The open space and recreation plan comments. So the open space and recreation plan has been posted, and we're going to have a public meeting on it. That's what our consultant told us what we had to do. We probably don't have a lot of people to talk about it, even though it's a pretty important piece of legislation. I know Cindy made comments. Did anyone else have any comments on the open space and recreation plan?
There was comments from the Conservation Commission that went back and forth between our consultant. And then I forwarded Cindy's comments today, but I haven't had any directly to me other than Cindy's.
Okay. Does anyone in the public, would anyone in the public want to make a comment on the open space and recreation plan that has been posted on the planning board website?
Mark, I'm a little confused about the date by which we're having, is tonight the night for the public comments? Because I keep seeing October 3rd in some of the back and forth emails. So Tracy, maybe you could clarify.
Yeah, tonight's the end, or today is the end date for the open comment period. Our consultant will be before the planning board on October 3rd with a final copy.
Okay. So if you want to make a comment on it and get it into the final copy, speak now, forever hold your peace.
Well, can I just, I'm a little concerned about some of the actions, and I was hoping we would talk a little bit about that tonight. And I don't know if folks have had a chance to really look at the action plan.
We'll bring it up.
I think I want to make sure that the goals and the action plan, so that there's two tables there. One is sort of what happened with the last round of action items, and one is what are the future goals. I mean, if this is going to be meaningful, I guess I just wanted the planning board to weigh in. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at them.
I think we just got this today again, right?
No, this has been on the planning board webpage for over a week anyway.
Oh, I thought it just came through
So
again.
Bob sent it today as a final. This is why I'm confused. Bob sent it today as a final before he got our comments. So I'm not sure now. We've got a couple versions, but version that's been posted.
Versions, yeah.
Tracy had posted a version asking for comments, and then that was the one that I commented on, which is I think partly what we're showing now.
Do they have draft dates on them at all, maybe?
This is draft 8/25/2022. So ignoring what came in today, I guess this was the version we were supposed to comment on. Is that correct, Tracy?
That is correct. I think what happened was Bob made the corrections and sent them out to the people who made the comments to make sure that he got their comments right.
Okay, so assuming we're still working off of this version, because I didn't look at old comments. Can you just scroll up one extra page there to see, is this the right table? Because there's two tables. Just scroll up to goal number 1, unless I'm able to do that. Who's document, who's sharing here?
Mark?
Mark White? Can you scroll up?
We lose them.
Mark White, if you're on, can you just scroll up the page? No.
Sounds like
I
Mark
think-
has left the room.
All right, Tracy, can you bring up the same document? While she's doing that, though, if you guys want to read through these goals, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, we're listed as a the responsible party for this goal number 2.
Well, we're doing that now. So
Yep, right,
that's exactly what we're doing.
right. And I don't know what year is that year. It's all grayed out. So what does that mean? We're supposed to do that for 5 years, or is that? I guess I don't want to. I didn't look at that before, but high priority year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
It would have been nice if they used something other than white and gray boxes.
So that's a comment for Bob for CEI.
That's a comment. Yeah, put checks in the years that you're, that it includes, or a bullet or something, because it's hard to tell, are you talking about 5 years there or 0 years? So based on what we saw, gray equals a year, because it was all gray. So it either meant we shouldn't do it at all, or we got to do it all 5 years.
So I did give comments sort of throughout the document, just asking for clarification. I think some of the information was a little bit dated, so I asked for some updates. But I went through it quite thoroughly, as you know I would. So I made several pages of edits and very specific comments, just so folks, as you're reading this, that was sort of the gist of my
Yeah, and I was part of the committee, so my comments are incorporated already.
Can you see, can everybody see that?
So this was the status of the action items associated with the last plan, right, Tracy? So this is not the future. So
What page do you want me on, Cindy?
well, I guess one of my questions to Bob was, okay, so you've got, do all these goals drop off now, or are these incorporated in the future goals, right? Because there was a bunch of goals here and some of them no progress to date or nothing established. Did they get carried over? I don't think they did, but that seems a little odd to me. So
Okay.
trying to figure out if they could make one table with a status and whether it's supposed to get carried or not. And then getting into the future goals, which would be on the next table. If you could scroll, there you go. 5-year action plan, here we are.
Well, that's a very high level question to ask. Did you carry over all the other things that you didn't get, that we were unsuccessful at in some form or another?
Right. So I put that in my comments to Bob, and I thought maybe they could redo the table to show sort of anything that was being carried over and not. But anyway, that's a formatting thing. So like the open space committee, I think in the previous goals, it never happened. I think this was a prior goal and it didn't happen. So I don't know what the point of putting it forward again is, unless it's really something we want to happen. I know the select board is a little loath to create new committees they're struggling already with the number of committees. So, is this a realistic goal or a good goal? I don't know, but
To create a new committee?
yeah.
Which one is that?
Very first action item here, explore the possibility of creating a Boxborough open space committee.
Oh, God help us. Not another committee.
Right. So to me, that seems a little bit, I don't know, unrealistic or not useful. I don't know what other folks feel. So this is the kind of stuff I guess, I want to talk with you guys about, because I want, I want this to be part of the master plan, and we're going to live by it, or aren't we? So, I want these things to be realistic, not just.
Well, only the things that we want are going to be part of the master plan. That's the beauty of it. They can put in a whole bunch of crazy stuff and we can just ignore it.
Well, but is that useful? I mean, really?
No, I think it is. I mean, if for example, that somebody wanted an open space, stakeholders commission. My problem is I'm on too many meetings already. I'm not that much of a busybody. I can't handle that level of interaction with townspeople. Can barely handle what I've got now. So would I like to be on it? Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess, in reality, what would an open space committee do? Would they make recommendations for parcel purchases? What is the point? This is under the acquiring additional lands for conservation, water resource protection, et cetera. Do we need another committee to do that? Or should that be the job of the planning board or some other, entity to make recommendations? So again, I just don't like to put forward goals that seem not useful or helpful, or things that, and maybe it will get done, but it's only a medium goal for the select board. I doubt it's going to happen, I guess. Next item, continue to provide funding at annual town meeting. That usually does happen. And so I guess that's a perfectly good goal, but it's been an ongoing one. Third item, check in periodically with property owners whose properties have been identified as having open space, conservation, agriculture, recreation potential. Now, they've got 4 entities here. Planning board's not one of them.
I'm fine with that. Not being on it, but
okay.
But I do have a problem when they put 4 boards on it, because whenever you have 4 boards, then somebody else thinks that they're doing the work, and so they don't have to, rather than just making it the responsibility of just one board.
Right.
I agree with that too.
Now I know Boxborough Conservation Trust does that, but they're not a town board, so I don't know.
How about the
I don't think we can-
CPC?
CPC evaluates grants. I don't know. Does CPC make recommendations?
They have a wish list.
Maybe they should be the one to do it if they're not doing
And
it.
the open space as well, I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm new on that committee, but I do know they have a wish list, so.
Is somebody taking notes here?
Tracy, are you going to take these comments and forward them on to Bob, or how do you want us to do this?
I'm taking notes.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, so these are just comments from us, and resolving them, I don't know if that's our job, but I think that they're good comments.
Yeah, I would say, pick a board. Don't stick 4 in it.
Right. All right, what's next? Develop written procedure and timeline for responding to. I think that's an excellent goal and should be done. And I think it might even have been done as a result of the recent purchase of Sergeant Road property, but
it's very straightforward in the statutes. And if the select board or town administrator has retained as a template, any of the offers that have been done recently, they should have that already.
Okay, so they've been assigned that, so I think that's an appropriate goal. Yes,
Definitely.
okay. Update the list of priority parcels maintained by the CONSCOM. So there is a table at the back of this document of priority parcels. Are we comfortable with CONSCOM being the entity that does that?
Yeah.
So I should note on that table, there is no order of priority, I don't think. Maybe Tracy, you can flip over to that table, but
Yeah, that's what they told us last time. There was no priority, that they were just numbered arbitrarily.
right.
I think the priority can change from time to time too, depending on what's going on in the locale.
The availability, right?
That
Something, if somebody's selling it, that's the time to strike.
Yeah, it was one of the tables, 29, 28, or something like that. Anyway, it's just, I had made that note that, you know, it would still be helpful to have some sense of, you know, when Sergeant Road came up, some people were like, well, this was number 6 on the list, and others said, no, there's no order, you know, but some were high, medium, and low. So anyway, are we comfortable with Conscom being sort of the keeper of that list? Okay. And then the next one is for the planning board, identify priority parcels, corporate or private, that could potentially use existing tax incentives to encourage land protection. This one's a little tricky, right? Would that be something the planning board would do even?
Could potentially use existing tax incentives to encourage land protection.
I mean, would we ever, this almost goes into Rich Gazzardi's earlier comment about, you know, incentivizing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what our job would be here, though.
I mean, yeah, you really just need a salesman, and that wouldn't be me.
Sorry, need a what?
Salesman. You need to go, hey, you know, property. Hey, Gutierrez, how about, you know, we permanently protect those lots that seem virtually unbuildable by 111 that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Once you, you know, put them into permanent protection. And we'll credit you somehow for them. We'll let you build another 30 feet of high cube flex space, whatever.
Yeah, well.
Well, how do we manage the tax incentive portion of this, though? You know, we could incentivize probably in a number of ways, but not, I mean, we're not linked to the taxation on these.
No, but I like what Mark just said, you know, maybe we would offer some flexibility on dimensional requirements if, right?
Yeah, agreed.
But we'd have to write a bylaw to allow for that, correct?
Well, we could write a TDR bylaw. And then we could say that, Gutierrez, if you keep these chunks permanently protected, then we'll let you use that aggregate area for development on your bigger parcel.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
All right, well, we don't have to solve this, but does it make sense that we're listed as one of the entities that would be involved with this? And what's the likelihood we'll do this in the next 5 years, I guess?
Well, then it says other stakeholder committee,
Yeah.
regional local land trusts. Well, I guess that would mean maybe the Boxborough Conservation Trust, and we could dump it off on them and just work with them.
So you want to take planning board off, or say other stakeholders in coordination with planning board rather than listing?
I don't think it's bad that we're on there, but I mean, I think it's really that the real primary there ought to be, well, I guess in a sense, since they can't be there by themselves, the Boxborough Conservation Trust,
right,
then we can be there and say, hey, Boxborough Conservation Trust, please do this, right? Or how have you been making out? You know, and just initiate a conversation with them. I guess I'm okay with it.
So leave as is?
Leave as is.
Okay, this next goal too, I think we said we are doing this and it is a high priority, so we're good with that. Next to our historic commission, protect the town's heritage and character through the preservation of scenic areas, roadways, and landscape features, natural and historical. I mean, I think the planning board could be listed as an action item here relative to potential creation of a historic district or
sure,
something to that effect. So you want that to be a third goal under this one, a third action item?
Sure.
Okay. Well, actually, the second one has the Historic Commission. We want to be added to that?
Yes,
Okay.
we've talked about that before.
I agree.
Okay, so rather than create a third action, we'll put us as also on action item 2 under that goal 3.
Yep. Under goal 3, the second.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Recreation programs to meet current and future demand. That's probably nothing the planning board would be involved with. I think we're okay with all of these. Goal 5, create a process whereby the town boards, commissions, and residents are periodically informed about environmental conservation issues, including the impacts of human activity and the financial benefits of protecting natural resources. Happy to let others do this, but it should certainly be shared with us.
Which one are you on?
Goal 5.
Okay.
Process where commissions are informed about environmental conservation issues. So several boards are listed as being the provider of that data, but we want to, I think I'm on board with all of that. Just what's the likelihood it's going to continue to get pushed out?
Well, I don't think any board had any, we're very helpful in the last one. That was what we were talking about at the meeting, that the subcommittee that created this thing. And the ConsCom admitted, or at least the members that were there said that, we are not great at doing education and outreach. We're sort of a regulatory board. That was my recollection of the meeting. And how is the Board of Health on that front? You know what I mean?
Well,
are we asking people to do things that they can't do? That's
right. This is an education effort, right?
Right.
So whose responsibility is it to educate? It's just such information overload. This is one of those, this is realistic.
Well, that's the problem. The way I feel right now, I can't take on one more
Give it to the sustainability committee. That's their failure.
What kind of format is this coming at too? Is it like a monthly bulletin, or is it like 16 different news articles a day? You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
I guess that's being developed, but
yeah.
We're a land use board, so give it to environmental and conservation issues is ConsCom and sustainability.
I agree. I think Mark's got it right. I think they're going to struggle, but I think it is their job ultimately.
And not Board of Health?
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think on conservation issues, the Board of Health should be leading on that, but yeah. That's me. They really are, are the restaurants clean and safe to eat? Do the septic systems work? Are the wells tested? I don't know how much conservation they do.
Mm-hmm. Could put water resources on that list. Okay, let's keep moving.
Yeah, just keep it the way it is unless there's a reason.
Yeah. All right. Goal 6, preserve farmland areas with soils favorable for agriculture and forestry and to encourage agricultural land uses. So here's again the chapter 61 stuff, which seems like a redundant goal. It was already listed above, Tracy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would just write, is this redundant question? Yeah, because it's already in there.
Strength and protection of agricultural uses. I see it's only AgCom now. The solar bylaw came to mind on this one, so I don't know if planning board should be listed as well, or not on that number 2 there.
Yeah. I agree.
Again, you keep biting off more than you can chew.
I know,
okay? And then you're not going to be able to eat. So let the AgCom come to the planning board when they
Right.
need something, but basically let them run point on agricultural issues. Otherwise, I mean, you can't have your finger in everything because
No, agree.
you don't have enough fingers.
I agree.
Okay.
Same, I mean, all the rest of this, AgCom. Let them bring it forward and then we support.
Okay, goal 7, pursue regional approaches to achieving the goals of open space and rec plan, including coordination with neighboring communities and Magic Region. Well, we are working towards number 1. I don't want to add my name, but we are trying to investigate the,
Yeah, I mean, I know we just said don't bite off more, but we're doing that already. So I don't.
We got the planner though. I mean, that's the plan. The planner is going to bring us in when we need to come. That's all. I mean,
Well,
if we have a planner, then that's kind of right up their alley.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know about select board though. I don't know why they're in there. I mean,
Oh man, we should just make them do something, anything. Keep them busy. And why are they meeting on my night? That's what I want to know. I thought we scheduled all our meetings so that we wouldn't be overlapping.
We tried. I think this was one of those months where if we didn't get it in tonight, we wouldn't have gotten one in September. So, all right. I think everybody good with the rest of this?
Are we, I'm sorry, but just for clarification, are we removing select board on the first one? Or no?
Oh, I'd say leave them. I mean,
Okay.
don't make a change unless there's a need. Sounds almost spiteful when we take them off.
I don't know why select board is on goal 7, number 1. They got nothing to do with any of that.
Right. Okay.
Well, Les does. Les lives for that shit.
Well, then he can do that as a liaison. But I mean, there's nothing that I don't know why. Who put the select board there?
Agreed.
Well, when you're doing
Mapping,
you're using
floodplains,
town funds.
georeferencing. I mean, come on, that's not their thing.
Well,
Town funds are their thing.
is this creating a library of resource material? If so, I think it is theirs. I mean, this is the mapping and reference material and making it happen so we can all use it.
But they just this is a responsibility column. They're not going to run point on any of that. Okay, just like we don't have a lot of extra hours, neither do they. And they're wrapped up in the budget stuff. They're not going to wrap up in Aquifer Protection District.
But they need the money.
It would just be money, yeah.
We need the money for every single thing on this list. So the Board of Selectmen are going to be there, no matter what. In every.
Well, you don't need money to maintain representation to the Minuteman Advisory Group,
Actually, you do. I think
you do. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. But leave them on. I
Right.
mean, no harm in leaving them.
Unless there's a reason to take them off, leave them on.
Well, again, who put them in is what I want to know. If they put themselves in there, then it's fine. Fine, go ahead. But they probably don't even know they're on that list.
Is that the last of it, Tracy?
I would assume that anybody's on that list would have the opportunity to weigh in about their involvement, right?
They do tonight, and no one's here.
Well, who put the responsibility columns in there? Who plugged the select board in there?
We had a group, a working group, right? And
somehow they got their names on there. Then
and the planning board was on it, and the conscom was on it, and sustainability was on it, and agcom was on it, and water resources was on it indirectly. And I didn't see any select board members on it, but
I mean, this is all land use anyway, so I'm surprised that they're on much of it at all.
But anyways, it was a big group of people and they decided.
That is the last of that.
Awesome. So those are our comments.
Do we need to write a letter at some point, Tracy? I think that has to go into this saying we,
Yes, it does.
can
So
we wait? Sorry, go ahead.
So after your next meeting, I'll have, hopefully Bob can do these changes quick and your additions, Cindy, and I can get a better copy out soon. And then you can all have time to look it over. And then at the next meeting, vote your recommendation to write that letter, and then we can submit it to the state.
And it's a template letter, right? I mean, it looks like
It is.
every so you'll have that ready for us to review or something.
Yep, I can absolutely have that.
Great. Okay. Good. Well, thanks to the committee for doing all this work. And like I said, my comments were about sort of updating some stale information and making some organizational edits and things like that. But Bob can take from it what he can actually do, and whatever.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Warrant article funding for environmental studies.
So this was a follow-up to the discussion the board had last time about potentially putting in a warrant article for fall town meeting. And I am in the process of trying to get some scopes of work, but we sort of agreed we would focus on maybe some baseline protection / water quality type assessments and maybe traffic, and if stormwater tied into that somehow, but I'm leaning more towards more just water quality, aquifer protection, and traffic. So I spoke with one firm. They're going to just bullet out some points and come up with a scope of work on the water quality. Tracy and I are going to have a call with another firm to discuss traffic and also water quality. And once I get some scopes, I'll share it with you folks, and we'll decide if we want to go forward with the warrant article or if pare it back. But I want it to be useful. But the idea is to get some baseline analyses, so as these additional projects come forward, even though they'll pay for consultants to review project-specific things, we want to get a sense of what the cumulative impact of future projects will be. So that's the intent. Right now, it's a placeholder of $25,000, and like I said, we can refine that once we get some draft scopes of work and decide if we want to move forward.
Right.
Okay, so any comments on that? Anybody have any suggestions for Cindy? And if we don't have any comments, this thing is on the warrant right now, but because the planning board has not voted to promulgate it, it does not say it's from the planning board. It says it's from Cindy Markowitz. So if we want to change that to the planning board, we should vote to make the request come from the planning board. That's my understanding. Does that make any sense to anybody? Does anybody have any questions?
No, I agree. Let's vote.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, we can pull this up till town meeting floor if we decide we don't want to move forward. And again, I'm working to try and flesh it out more. So it's a placeholder, but I would like it to come from the board, not just from me, if the board is amenable to that.
So we heard comments today again about looking into this stuff and getting more information together. So as a baseline,
What's
Yeah,
the date
I got a
of the
question
special town meeting?
November 15th, I believe. We haven't heard for sure if this is a definite, but that's the placeholder date.
I mean, the board talked about that money. I don't know why it's got to have your name on it. I mean, it just makes it like not from the board. It's either the board wants it or the board doesn't want it. But I mean, to have them slap your name on it like it's just Cindy Markowitz wants it. That's like, I don't know. It doesn't.
Well, so what happened was Carter put Cindy's
Actually,
name
it's easier for us, so we'll just let Cindy go in and she can argue for it. We don't have to do anything.
Right.
Life would be good.
That's going to happen anyway, whether we endorse it or not. But that was just a placeholder and waiting for us to take a vote. request the funding.
Again, I mean, we talked about it already. We all agreed that that was money we should probably be asking for.
And
Probably going to
Janet,
need it.
Janet, you were on a water resources meeting where that money was also, spoken of favorably by the Water Resources Committee, right? Janet's probably asleep. Nope, she's here.
I'm here.
Hey, Janet.
You should see how clean my floor is in my office. I've been sweeping the whole time. It's great.
So did the Water Resources agree with Cindy that we should ask for this money?
Specifically money for what?
For the baseline analyses for water quality, aquifer protection issues that we talked about at the last meeting.
Oh,
But
right. Right. I'm not sure how that would come about, but.
Right.
Did
Well,
it seem like it had endorsement from them or general favorability?
That the planning board asked for it instead of the Water Resources Committee asked for it.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So do we want to just do a simple vote and move on? Because the night is not young anymore.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Make a
So
motion.
all right. I'd like to entertain a motion to that the planning board request a warrant article for funding of environmental studies. Specifics to be provided by Cindy at a later date.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Kathleen Vorse,
Second.
second by Rebecca Werner. Any discussion? Hearing none. Cindy Markowitz,
Markowitz, aye.
Mark White,
Aye.
Kathleen Vorse.
Fourth eye.
Did I miss anybody? Mark Barbadoro, aye. And Rebecca Werner. I knew I missed somebody. Okay. All right. Next is the tree clearing bylaw discussion. It's on there just because I wanted to update the board that we have, there is a very rough draft of it, but we did not have enough time to get it on this special town meeting, but it is important. And I think that really this is just to say that, we should put this forward at regular town meeting, which, believe it or not, we should start working on it now because the time just flies when you're having fun. So that's basically just an update to the board that this is, we want to, I would like Rebecca to continue to work on it and present it when she's ready, as soon as she can, so that we can start working collectively on it to bring it forward at regular town meeting. So that was it. And is there any questions or comments about it?
I just want to add that it's sort of a straightforward bylaw, but it's still complicated enough that it just warrants some additional time, and definitely it's laying out tasks for people in the town, so that I need to take the time to be able to meet with those people and make sure that we're not overstepping any kind of boundaries as we kind of start defining whose responsibility things are. We kind of had talked about a moratorium on this. Do we want to discuss that at all?
I have to say, I'm probably not in favor of a moratorium. Unless that moratorium was something to the effect of had a large scale number, like a fairly large number of acres of the, clearing or disturbance. And that is not associated with a permit, right? So if you make it so big that it doesn't affect homeowners, and then you allow anybody who is clearing lawfully under a permit, whatever that permit be, an agricultural permit from the state, or, building permit, septic permit, whatever. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't know how great the urgency is that we can't wait until regular town meeting. What do you guys think?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Just because are we comfortable that our stormwater management permit, which limits disturbance of greater than an acre, must come to the planning board, that's some guardrails against massive clearing without the town's knowledge?
I think it is, but I mean, I guess we could take a second look at it. Maybe we can take a second look at it and discuss it at the next meeting, whether or not just view the stormwater management from a land clearing perspective and see if cutting but not stumping is included, or cutting and stumping is needed, or what it is. But certainly the aggregate area of an acre is fine with me, right?
The reason I bring it up is because I actually recently ran into something very similar in the town of Hingham for one of my projects. And we had to backtrack, even though we had broken ground, we had to backtrack and basically go back in front of the planning board and accommodate their recently passed tree bylaw, which was quite interesting. So it did impact my project work anyway. So I'm curious I haven't really addressed that with them, directly, just out of curiosity, but like if something is in the works already with the town, if it's almost applicable at some point along the process, because they were able to pull us back into a planning board review, assessment, and amendment of our plans, which was pretty interesting.
So
If Adam could answer that question.
I think that's a good question. Does the board want Adam to answer that question? Because we might need to spend our own money doing it, but I think it might be a worthwhile question to answer.
In other words, does it apply retroactive to any project that's underway?
Can I just tell you what I believe before we spend money on it? Because, a general, like a zoning bylaw is 100% prospective. It only deals with things that haven't yet happened, right? And if it starts to happen, well, then it's, quote unquote, grandfathered before, if it happens before the advertisement of the meeting and a permit is issued, for sure, it's grandfathered. But general bylaws are typically not grandfathered. So if you start the project and you've cleared part of your land, but then the tree clearing is, required on the rest of the land, and that triggered your threshold, you're not grandfathered with general bylaws. That's one of the beauties of general bylaws, right? They apply the minute they're written, and they apply to whatever's going on at the moment. So, but we can certainly ask Adam about the limitations of it. But it might be too early to be asking that. I think maybe we should be asking that later. When we're ready to give him the whole thing and look at it. But what do you guys think?
I'm curious.
Why don't you ask the attorney on your project? It's some free advice. I think right now I'm thinking we don't go forward with a moratorium, because I'm pretty comfortable that tree clearing, you don't have to stump, tree clearing is a land disturbance covered by the stormwater management permit. So I would not be in favor at this point of going forward with a moratorium, but I would like to bring the bylaw for next spring town meeting.
So is that too ambitious a timeline, Rebecca?
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, I know you've been going at it alone and also running a business and whatnot. So you've obviously been busy. So I'm not trying to pressure you. I did want to let everybody know that we just couldn't make it for this town meeting. No, it's just.
I think it's perilous trying to bring things to a fall town meeting, zoning articles, because people are used to bringing zoning articles to an annual. And I've heard a lot of grumbling about it already. And so, try and bring them before as many people as you can. That's what the general town meeting is all about. Get it out there, gives us plenty of time, do our homework, put it in front of the populace at large. Otherwise, people feel like we're trying to pull a fast one.
It's a new bylaw too, a completely new bylaw. It's not like changing a little bit of verbiage in our, use table or something, it's a completely new one. So it just needs the time.
Yeah, definitely. I was just laughing to myself though, because we always bring these things, or not always, generally bring them forward on regular town meeting. And by the time they get to us, there's 5 people in the room. It's like, if they really wanted to get as many people involved as they could, they do it first, but they always stick us at the end, you know? But, oh,
Not
well.
for lack of trying, though.
Yeah. So, okay. Do we need any more discussion on that? I don't think we do. I don't think we need to do anything. We need to just try and, we're going to just keep it on the agenda just to keep it moving forward. Okay. So that's why it's going to be there. Administrative business. We got updates from town planner. We got town center updates. Campanelli development options, I don't think is really applicable anymore. Is there anything we need to talk about with I don't even know if we should actually, come to think of it, talk about it while it's, between meetings.
Tracy was probably going to tell us this, but we have a reminder, there's a site walk tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was tomorrow. That's right.
I don't know if it's going to rain. Is it going to rain?
Probably. Bring your slipper.
Sidewalk if it wasn't going to pour on us, right?
Yes. 60%.
5:30 p.m. Oh, yeah, it's on the calendar. Okay.
Okay, and we said we don't happen to have meeting minutes. Yay.
Where are we going to meet for that sidewalk?
Yeah.
No idea.
We're going to meet at the parking lot of 400.
Right,
Where
that's what I have
400 is
written.
going to be. Yep.
Are we only looking at 400 or are we looking at the rest of the Beaverbrook property?
That was our meeting spot.
All right.
Right.
400. That's what I got here is 400 Beaverbrook. But so.
And I would imagine that if you wanted to visit other spots, they would be accommodating because you're considering the special permit for the whole project. So I can clarify that with Russ tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay. Any more discussion about Campanelli? I'm just trying to run through this thing so I can go to bed.
We do.
So correspondence and new business, if any, Tracy, anything you got that's interesting?
I do not have anything.
Okie dokie. That's what
Hello,
I want
Mark.
to hear.
Of course, I've got something. Tracy, are you confirming you're running that land use webinar on Thursday night?
Oh, I am. It's actually from application to occupancy. It's more of a question and answer on the application process for building permits. And,
okay, cool.
And we'll have Kim Pelser on, and she's gonna do a demonstration of the online permitting, and also, and just kind of go over what goes on behind the scenes for that.
And for the everyone's edification, I have applied online for my roofing permit, and I got it. So my permit came in the mail. It was very easy to do. It was very, very easy. For simple permits, online permitting is a great thing. For complicated permits, for neophytes, it can be difficult, frustrating. Okay.
Will that session be recorded?
Yes, and then I'll put a link to it on the planning website. Or the planning department website.
Awesome. So, TAP grant applications and opportunities. Anybody have any updates or news about it?
Yeah.
Hearing none. Really, Cindy? Nothing? I'm just kidding. Okay. Planning board training. I have heard nothing. Anybody heard anything? Okay, good. Master plan action items, don't care right now. Anybody? Okay, good. Website update. Tracy's been updating the website. So
I'm trying to keep up with it.
awesome. Okay, a legislative update. NBA communities regulations are in place. We need to get an action plan ready by December. If we don't, we can potentially lose grant opportunities. The action plan is not, I guess we have to satisfy some arbitrary criteria. I have no idea what that is. I don't know if we could just simply write a high level of what to do and how to handle it. I don't know. Once we do that, we get we get like 4 years or 5 years of time to figure out the actual rules. So it does buy us quite a bit of time.
That's something that the town planner would normally handle. I just want to understand what our role is relative to this.
Well, it's going to be, it's going to be at least partially. I mean, actually, I would say it's, you want to know where the houses are going to go? It kind of sounds like what the planner decided.
I have a question on that. So if we don't respond by December,
Yep.
then the specific grants that they disallow us from will be disallowed from. But if maybe by June we decided we wanted one of those grants and then we gave them what they wanted, do you just kind of pick up wherever you left off?
I bet you
Get
do.
back in line? Does that work like that?
I bet you do, but I don't have any proof of that.
So how do we find out? Because that's the other way, is just drag your damn feet and
Till you need something.
till you need something from, right, till you got another sidewalk project, for example, and you're looking down the barrel of $500,000 and then you go, well, okay, maybe now we should do that.
But if the action plan is pretty high level, I'd suggest that we just do it, and rather that, we could rest on our laurels for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but doesn't it push, if you stall for a year, it pushes it 3 or 4 years down. Now it's 5 years instead of, now it's 4 or 5 instead of 3 or 4.
No, I think they have hard dates. They have a date like
2025.
Oh, by a date certain.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you can't drag it and then drag it and then drag it and then stretch it out over 20 years. No.
It's like Medicare. If you don't take your drug benefit and then you take it later on, they make you pay it all back. That's kind of how it works. Just found that out. Just gave it to you sometime.
Well, you would know about Medicaid and Medicare and stuff.
Medicare, yep.
I don't, being the young man that I am. But okay, so let's see. Committee reports. Community Preservation Commission.
This has nothing.
Has nothing. Nice. Design Review Board.
Nada.
Ah, nice. EDC. Mark.
I can't remember.
Okay, I've had that same problem. I can't remember anything. Magic Representative Markowitz.
No, I have nothing.
Okay, Water Resources, Janet.
I have nothing to report that came out of the Water Resources Committee. Activities of the Water Resources Committee are being discussed with the select board, and there's emails and things like that going around.
What do you mean by?
Well, I think you're all on them as well. These came through my email that I know I wasn't the only one on them.
Okay. All right. Small Cell Committee.
No, nothing to report.
Building Committee. We've got nothing. Boxborough Leadership Forum. That would be me. So, as usual, they had a bunch of nothing to talk about. And then I came there with 20 things, and then there was great excitement over whatever the planning board was doing. So we provided the input and all the entertainment, and then they hung out and questions. So that was it. And that led to me having to be stuck going to the EDC, and hopefully Cindy to the EDC if she has time tomorrow. I don't know if you do.
Oh, that's not on my agenda.
Well, then you gotta give me your funding request, because there will be questions.
Oh, you mean to the Finance Committee?
Finance. I didn't mean EDC. I beg
Okay.
your pardon. I beg your pardon, all of you. I meant Finance Committee.
Tomorrow night. Right.
Yes.
That was Freudian.
Yeah, okay. So we gotta be done with our site visit by 7 o'clock so we can go to the Finance Committee.
Yes.
By then.
I think she has a planning board scheduled at like 8 to 8:45
Okay.
or something.
Okay.
So they run a pretty packed agenda. So they're not going to have time for us to sit around and dither. So I think we'll have plenty of time for our second book. So that's all I've got. So Town Administrator Search Committee. Where are we with our new town administrator?
So the screening committee had put forth 4 candidates. The Select Board interviewed them last week, and I believe they made a selection as of last Thursday's meeting, which is all public and it's on BXB. I believe they're in negotiations with that candidate, and that's all I know. And the screening committee is actually disbanded, so that's the last update. I'm going to take myself off the agenda for this.
Awesome. So that's moving forward. I guess the big question is will Carter be forced to sit through special town meeting? Or will he just parachute out right before? Lucky dog. I don't know the answer. Okay. Let's go to executive session, shall we?
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is end this meeting and then I'll have to start the new one.
Is
Okay.
it the same link for the execs?
No,
No.
Tracy sent us a separate link, but you got to go find it.
Right. So this is where I sign off because I'm not a party to this particular topic that's being discussed in executive session. So I
Lucky
wish you well and a speedy evening, our next session.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, Janet. So Tracy, did you send us it in an email or how do I?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Okey-dokey.
I can,
Oh,
When did-
9:15 at
And
1:12 p.m. Sorry.
does everybody have it?
What was the subject line?
9:15.
It was under the 9/19/22 PB agenda.
Okay, I'm gonna go and join that. Do
Well,
you
we
want,
have to, Mark has to make the motion. We have to move to go to executive session first.
Make a motion to adjourn into executive session and later to adjourn for the evening.
I think you have to read the text that's in the agenda.
Oh,
Oh.
all right. So do you want me to make it or do you want Mark White to? Either one.
Go ahead, Mark. You got it in front of you.
Okay. How about this then? Mark can make it. I'll just entertain it. I will entertain a motion to conduct an executive session via separate Zoom event to participate in the discussion of strategy with respect to litigation, Priest Lane extension. If open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining or litigating position, and for the planning board to exit executive session and not reconvene in open session. The chair shall note that to discuss in open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the planning board. The planning board will not reconvene in open session after the completion of executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second,
Okay, so I didn't see who's second.
Werner?
Okay. So moved by Mark White, seconded by Rebecca Berner. Any discussion? Hearing none. Cindy Markowitz,
Mark, what's I?
Kathy Vorse,
Vorse, aye.
Mark White,
Wait, aye.
Rebecca Berner,
Werner, aye.
Mark Barbadoro, aye. Okay, I'm going to go try and find that link.
All right.